Well, I knew that it was gonna happen. I was just talking the other day in the live chat, and I was saying that I'm gonna have a insomnia night coming very soon, and it is right now. I've been up all night. It's almost 4 a.m. I'm doing video work, editing, and I thought, well, we haven't started this trial, so maybe we'll watch day one while I work. We are going to be watching, I believe, Maxwell Anderson's his name. I don't know anything about this at all. So usually I'll do like research, so I know what we're going to be talking about and things like that. But then I thought, well, maybe other people haven't seen it, so we can learn together as we watch this trial. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move myself. I am feeling a little bit tired now, but I'm happy to be able to get this done with. There's another trial too that I want to try to catch up on. And yeah, I'll be skipping through the breaks, or if there's like sidebar, I'll skip through all of that so we're not wasting our time. All right, here we go.
Drinks at the Twisted Fisherman restaurant in Milwaukee. They then went to Duke's bar on Water Street, and then they went back to Maxwell Anderson's house on the south side of Milwaukee around 9:20 in the evening on April 1st. After leaving Duke's and going to the defendant's house, Sade would never be seen alive again. That night, she was murdered by Maxwell Anderson. Her body was dismembered by Maxwell Anderson in a vicious and gruesome manner. And then Maxwell Anderson attempted to make her disappear from this world by discarding her body into body parts into Lake Michigan, and then taking her car and burning it behind an abandoned building near 30th and Lisbon. The evidence in this case is going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Maxwell Anderson intentionally killed Sade Robinson and then sought to have her disappear from this world. He cut up her body, tried to get rid of her body parts, and tried to cover it up in any way that he could. For doing this, he has been charged with 4 crimes: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, arson of property for burning the car, and hiding a corpse. The evidence in this case, the testimony you're going to hear, is going to be voluminous. The judge just told you you're going to be allowed to take notes throughout the course of this trial. I would strongly encourage that you do that. The reason for that is so that when you're back there deliberating at the end of this trial, you're able to look back and understand the significance of things that you heard and remember it, because there will be a lot. So I would encourage you to do so. But at the end of this trial, the evidence will establish that Maxwell Anderson is the one who killed and dismembered Sade Robinson, and it'll prove him guilty of those 4 crimes. This is my opportunity to summarize the evidence so that you have sort of a roadmap as the trial progresses, and so you understand the context of what you're hearing about when you hear about it. You are first going to hear about April 2nd, 2024. Around 5:20 in the evening, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office and the Cudahy Police Department were dispatched to the shores of Lake Michigan near Warnemont Park. It was a particularly rainy day. The weather was pretty nasty that day. And 2 young men were walking the shores of Warnemont Park, and they found a human leg. And they called 911. That leg that they found would later be confirmed through DNA testing to be the leg of Sade Robinson. The leg was found down a large bluff at the park on the coastline of Lake Michigan. It's a very secluded location. You are going to see ample amount of photographs of that location. And investigators searched that area north and south of there significantly, thoroughly, but found no other human remains at the park. Now, this park and this location is near the Cudahy Water Department. Investigators also discovered that on April 2nd, April 1st into April 2nd, a vehicle had been used to ram the Service Gate Road near the Cudahy Water Department pump house. This is right next to, about 100 yards away from where the leg was found on the coastline. The Cudahy Water Department personnel reported this actually the morning of April 2nd, prior to the leg being found. Notably, where this gate was smashed, this gate takes you essentially down a service road that goes right down to the shoreline where this Cudahy Water Department pump house was located. And recovered right where this gate was smashed were pieces of a dark blue Honda Civic, 2020 Honda Civic. Sade Robinson had a dark blue 2020 Honda Civic. The pieces of that Honda Civic were recovered from that location. They were ultimately determined by an analyst from the state crime lab that they were not just from any Honda Civic, they were broken off of Sade Robinson's Honda Civic. Video was recovered from the Cudahy Water Department and the surrounding area. And the video showed that near the location of this gate, a dark blue vehicle, Sade Robinson's Honda Civic, entering the park and entering that service road where that gate is at 2:53 a.m. on April 2nd. The vehicle remains down that service road, and there's only one way in and one way out, down that service road for about an hour and a half, and departs that very same service road at 4:32 a.m. on April 2nd. Additionally, on April 2nd, just hours after that car departs the park, at 7:30 a.m., Sade Robinson's Honda Civic was intentionally set on fire behind an abandoned building near 30th and Lisbon. Later that day, April 2nd, 2024, Sade Robinson was reported missing to the Milwaukee Police Department. Friends and family, friends who knew she hadn't shown up for her work shift on April 2nd at Pizza Shuttle, hadn't heard from her, reported her missing. Police followed up. They checked her apartment at 1858 North Commerce Street. She wasn't there. No real signs of what happened. Police would then follow up on the missing persons report, speak to several family members and friends, and discover that she had gone on a date the evening of April 1st, after her work shift. They also learned what her phone number was, and they learned from her family and friends that she had an app called Life 360. Life 360 and the phone number, with that information, police obtained phone records from Verizon Wireless, the wireless company that serviced Sade's phone. And those phone records from Verizon Wireless and the records from Life 360 provided very crucial information about Sade Robinson's activities on the evening of April 1st and her whereabouts. Notably, the police discovered a text message conversation between Sade and a phone number that the police would later learn belonged to Maxwell Anderson. The text conversation showed that Sade and Maxwell Anderson were planning to meet at the Twisted Fisherman that evening to get food, and indeed did meet around 5:15 p.m. on April 1st. Additionally, the records from Verizon Wireless, as I indicated, provided location information for her phone that not only confirmed her trip to Twisted Fisherman, but would provide further location information all the way up until about 4:40 a.m. on April 2nd. Police would follow up at Twisted Fisherman, and then through her phone records, also learning that she had gone to Duke's on Water Street. And they got video from those two locations that confirmed that Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson met up that evening, first having dinner and drinks at the Twisted Fisherman, and then they went to Duke's on Water Street to hang out and have more drinks. Through all of that information, the phone data, the videos, investigators confirmed they were at Twisted Fisherman from 5:15 p.m. until 6:24 p.m. And then they went to Duke's on Water Street from 6:30 p.m. to about 9:04 p.m. Videos also confirmed that that evening, Sade Robinson was driving her 2020 Honda Civic, the same vehicle that was used to smash the gate at the Cudahy Water Department pump house. Now, this would be time for me to mention it's a common vehicle, Honda Civic. Everyone's heard of one. But it does have distinct features. Honda Civics have sort of distinct features that are going to be worth noting when we go through the evidence in this case. Hers was dark blue. It had a sunroof. And particularly 2020 Honda Civics had these unique sort of C-shaped lights in the rear. And you're going to see those. All features that are noticeable on video, which will become important. At 9:04 p.m., Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson left Duke's together. And they left Duke's and got into Sade Robinson's Honda Civic. Sade was driving. Maxwell Anderson was riding passenger. Just the two of them. The phone location information from both Sade's phone and Maxwell Anderson's phones, as well as other surveillance videos that you'll see from downtown and the area near Maxwell Anderson's residence on the south side of Milwaukee, confirmed that they drove from Duke's on Water to Anderson's residence. They arrived at his residence around 9:24 p.m., and you will see video of Sade's car arriving at his residence, driving right by the front of his house and then into the alley. At the exact time, her phone location information is showing her phone arriving at his residence. Sade's phone remains at Maxwell Anderson's home up until about 12:45 a.m. on April 2nd. There's a video from across the street from Maxwell Anderson's home that shows silhouettes and movement in Maxwell Anderson's residence for the intervening about 3 hours. The time she gets there, the time her phone shows that they got there, up until about 12:45 a.m. Consistent with Maxwell Anderson and Sade being there. That video from across the street, beginning about 11:24 p.m., all the way up until about 12:45 a.m. on the 2nd, shows some movement beginning in the side yard near where the back door is, where he would come out and go in. That stops around 12:45 a.m. And any human movement that you can see in the upper window stops at 12:45 a.m. Also occurring right after 12:45 a.m., Sade Robinson's phone location information begins to show her phone moving away from Maxwell Anderson's residence, where it's been stationary since her car arrived there around 9:24 p.m. Now, this is a very crucial time in the timeline. And this is where the phone location information that investigators got from Verizon Wireless and Life 360 becomes extremely important. What occurs beginning just after 12:45 a.m. is that the victim's phone moves away from Maxwell Anderson's residence and begins to travel to various locations throughout Milwaukee County for the next few hours. And investigators were able to follow essentially a trail of videos where the victim's phone was showing her phone was at various times. From 12:45 a.m. all the way up until the approximate time her phone goes off the wireless network at 4:40 a.m. This is the time where that unique look of that Honda Civic is going to come into play for you all. You will see investigators followed where Sade's phone appeared to travel to and recovered videos around the county confirming that her car was traveling in those exact areas at those exact same times. So when the phone starts moving away from her residence just after 12:45 a.m., the records show her car driving northbound near 35th Street. Videos pick her car up driving in that exact direction. The phone then ends up downtown Around 1 a.m., a camera downtown that actually is a license plate reader camera captures her plate downtown just after 1 a.m. The phone then travels up into the River West neighborhood, where it remains until about 2 a.m., where cameras capture it again. It then leaves River West and heads westbound down Capitol Drive just after 2 a.m., where cameras catch it again. It then doubles back eastbound on Capitol Drive, where cameras catch it again. And the records show it appears to get on the interstate and travel southbound towards and through downtown Milwaukee, and ultimately appear to exit the interstate just around 2:40 a.m., where cameras capture it again. The phone then, after exiting the interstate near College Avenue, heads east in the direction of Warnemont Park. Also captured by a trail of videos. And then by 2:53 a.m., video shows the Honda Civic arriving at Warnemont Park, which is the video I described before of the car smashing the pump house gate. Sade's phone shows her phone records show that her phone remained at Warnemont Park for about an hour and a half, the same amount of time that the car remained down that pump house road from the video. And in that time, police recovered video from that Cudahy Water Department pump house that overlooks Lake Michigan. That video, it's nighttime, it's dark, but it paints a telling tale. It shows, just after that car arrives, a silhouette of a person descending the bluffs near the coastline of Warnemont Park, near the Cudahy Water Department, where Sade Robinson's leg would later be found on April 2nd. That person, the evidence is going to show you, is Maxwell Anderson. This is the time where Sade's body was intentionally discarded into the lake after being dismembered. By this time, Sade is deceased, and Maxwell Anderson, using her own car, is trying to make her disappear. That video from the pump house confirms that he is down there for about an hour and a half before departing the pump house and departing Warnemont Park in her car around 4:30 a.m., which is exactly what the phone records show. Shortly after that, as the phone moves north, it goes off the network around 4:40 a.m. as it heads north into St. Francis towards downtown. Now, investigators also canvassed heavily near the area of where Sade's car was burned, way over on 30th and Lisbon on the north side of Milwaukee. And they also located a trail of videos from this location, picking up around 4:50 a.m., 10 minutes after Sade's phone appears to go off the network. And her Honda Civic is again picked up on those videos in the exact amount of time it would take to drive from where her phone went off the network to the location it's picked up on camera. That trail of videos shows her car, her 2020 Honda Civic, circling around the part of town where her vehicle would eventually be set on fire at 7:30 a.m. The Honda drives around from about 4:50 a.m. to 5:19 a.m., after which it is picked up next on a camera near a playground at 31st and Galena at 6:50 a.m. This is 1.5 blocks away from where her car would later be set on fire. The vehicle drives around more before pulling into the alley where it's set on fire. Police located video from a liquor store and a Milwaukee County Transit bus that depicts the time the vehicle fire was set. Now, you're not going to see it because he parked the car behind this abandoned building that did not obviously have functioning cameras. But these two videos show something crucial. They show two women walking down Lisbon Avenue who all of a sudden stop and begin to act in distress as they are clearly watching something disturbing happen. They are watching the fire being started. They are clearly shocked. They are clearly bothered on the video, which has audio. And right after they see this, a white male walks away from the area where the fire was set as one woman points at him and yells to the passing traffic, "He did that, call the fire department." You will see this white male on video. You will see the distinct clothing he's wearing as he's walking away from Sade's burning vehicle. He's got a dark gray hooded top. He's got dark pants, shoes with white soles, and he's wearing a large camouflaged backpack that appears to be very full. Police are able to follow an additional trail of videos of this person, the person walking away from her burning car. That trail of videos will show you that the person who lit Sade's car on fire at 7:30 a.m. boarded a Milwaukee County Transit bus on 35th and Lisbon at 8:12 a.m. And when that person gets on the bus, you will see their face clear as day on the bus camera video. It is him. It is Maxwell Anderson. He then takes the bus southbound on 35th Street and gets off the bus just blocks from his house. You will see that same vehicle, or that same video from across the street from his house that I mentioned before, showing him walking in his back door at 4:30 a.m., or excuse me, 8:43 a.m., right after he gets off the bus. These videos will prove that Maxwell Anderson lit Sade's car on fire, that no one else was with him. He did it behind an abandoned building in a part of town far from his home. Now, you're also going to hear that when police saturated the area, as well as family and friends who were not giving up on trying to figure out what happened to Sade, saturated the area where the car was burned, looking for any clues as to what happened to her. During these searches, family, friends, and police found Sade Robinson's other leg and other foot scattered and severed into pieces near that playground at 31st and Galena, just a block and a half away from where her car was set on fire. You will then hear that on April 18th, Sade's torso was discovered, having washed ashore on Lake Michigan in South Milwaukee. Sade's head had been intentionally cut off of her torso. Both of her legs intentionally severed from her torso. Her right arm intentionally severed from her torso. Her right breast intentionally cut off her torso. The torso was seriously decomposed, but identifying features confirmed it to be Sade. On May 11th, 2024, Sade's right arm was discovered having washed ashore on the shores of Waukegan, Illinois, severely decomposed. You will unfortunately see images of these body parts which make it clear that Maxwell Anderson intentionally decapitated Sade Robinson, intentionally cut off both of her legs, cut off her left arm, intentionally cut off her right breast, which has never been found, and intentionally cut off her head to date, which is still missing and has never been recovered. While horribly gruesome, this will show you the intent behind what happened to Sade and the intent behind making sure she was disposed of from this world. By April 4th, Maxwell Anderson was arrested by the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and you are going to hear that his cell phone was recovered from him, confirmed to be the same phone that Sade was texting on April 1st, the last text conversation Sade would ever have. Police searched Maxwell Anderson's phone. They searched his residence, trying in any way to learn more information about what happened to Sade. And while police did not locate any kind of gory scene in the residence, they located telling information in his residence and in his phone, including photos of Sade where she is laying on Maxwell Anderson's couch, face down, with his hand grabbing her right breast. And another photo of Sade's pants and her underwear being pulled off her body. The same pants and underwear that you're going to see that she was wearing on video when she went out with him that night on April 1st. And police actually find those pants and underwear in the trunk of her car after it had been burned. You will also hear from police who searched the area around Maxwell Anderson's residence and who recovered the dark gray sweatshirt that Maxwell Anderson was wearing during the time he lit Sade's vehicle on fire. You will see it's clearly visible on the bus video of him getting on the bus where his face is visible. And you're going to hear that hoodie had Maxwell Anderson's DNA on it and Sade's DNA on it. Additionally, you are going to hear from the medical examiner who examined the body parts that were recovered and was able to conclude that Sade's body was intentionally cut into pieces after her death. The medical examiner will describe the wounds to the body and what she noticed that showed the intentional severing of limbs, including the intentional severing of Sade's head. You are also going to hear and see evidence that the shores of Warnemont Park, where Sade Robinson's leg was found, were not unfamiliar to Maxwell Anderson. It was a place he knew well. It was a place he had taken a prior girlfriend to before, and that he called his secret beach. That's the location where Sade Robinson was discarded into Lake Michigan. It was a place he was familiar with and had taken a prior girlfriend to before. In total, what the evidence in this case is going to show is that Maxwell Anderson murdered Sade Robinson the night of April 1st into April 2nd. He then brutally and callously cut her apart, disposed of her body parts, and burned her car. Maxwell Anderson was the last person to text with Sade Robinson. He was the last person to be in public with Sade Robinson. He was the last person to have Sade Robinson's car. He was the last person to be with Sade Robinson. And the evidence will show that he is responsible for Sade's death. You will see, the evidence will show that what happened to Sade Robinson that night was not an accident. One does not end up going out to dinner and then going out for drinks on Water Street for a good time to being dead and cut up into pieces and discarded into Lake Michigan unless someone intends for that to happen. That's what the evidence will show happened to Sade Robinson. And the evidence will show Maxwell Anderson is responsible. At the end of this trial, I'm going to come back before you and again ask you to do what I asked you to do from the beginning, to use your common sense and search for the truth. And if you do those two things, you will find the defendant guilty.
Defense?
Good morning. The state began by using the phrase common sense. You heard it yesterday during jury selection, and you heard it again today in the state's opening. And they're using the phrase common sense because they want you to ignore the mountain of reasonable doubt that exists in this case. I want to start by telling you guys that much of what Mr. Vance Curzan just talked to you about, we don't dispute. So a lot of this trial isn't in dispute. The timeline, the fact that Max met Sade, Max had met her, went on a date with her, that they went to the Twisted Fisherman, that they went to Duke's, that they were out together that night, that they went back to Max's house, none of that is in dispute. The fact that body parts wash up at Warnemont Park, the fact that body parts are found at 31st and Galena, the fact that those body parts belong to Sade, nobody here is disputing any of that. It's horrible what happened to Sade. It's horrible. Nobody deserved that. And what the state wants you to do is use the emotion of that along with this phrase like common sense and use that emotion to convict Mr. Anderson. But I implore you in this trial, your most important job as jurors is to study the evidence closely that's introduced by the district attorney's office. We have no burden of proof. Max is not required to prove anything. The entire burden lies here and rests here entirely on the district attorney's office. And it's the highest burden in the land to marshal together, to put together enough evidence to bring to you to show that Max killed Sade and that he committed those other crimes. There are a few pieces of evidence that the state will rely heavily on. Max near the scene of the car, Max when it's burning, Max being the last person to go on a date with Sade. And that's frankly why law enforcement zeroed in on Max. You are going to hear that the amount of law enforcement resources that were spent in this case by the Sheriff's Department, the Milwaukee Police Department, the FBI, the amount of resources that were spent on this case, I think is probably unparalleled in Milwaukee history. The amount of money and time and effort that was put into collecting video evidence, to searching Maxwell's home, to interviewing coworkers, interviewing people that might know him, an immense investigation. And the state knows that there are serious holes in their case. They know it. They know that there's reasonable doubt, and that's why they're coming at you with this phrase, like common sense. So let's talk about that. There is absolutely no reason for Max to commit a crime like this. What you're going to hear in this trial is that Max and Sade lined up a date together like any couple of youngsters do, and they lined up a date at Twisted Fisherman. This is a place that Max used to work. You'll hear that they went there, they had dinner, and it was an ordinary evening. From Twisted Fisherman, as the state just told you, they went to Duke's. This is another place where Max is known. There was no secret place that Max took Sade that night, nowhere that anybody wouldn't have known him or recognized him. These are former places he worked and coworkers that he interacted with. And what I didn't hear was the theory of why Max did this, how Max did this, but I think what I heard in opening just now is that Max must have done this at his home. That seems to be the theory. Max brought Sade back to his home and killed her. Why? It's a normal date. You'll see them let camera footage leaving Duke's. You'll see them, Sade driving back to his place. You'll see them going there. In this timeline you were just given, I don't know how many witnesses they're going to call throughout this trial to put in this video or that video, but one thing you'll see throughout this is that we don't dispute any of that timeline, that they went out together and went back to Max's house, but that doesn't mean he killed her. How did he do it, and why did he do it? Why would he ever do something like that? If Max killed Sade in his home, if it happened in that location, as I think they're offering to you, there would be a mountain of DNA evidence. There would be blood. There would be some form of DNA. And I listened carefully when I heard the state's opening, because yes, it's gruesome. Yes, it's horrible. Nobody deserves it. But what was glaringly missing from what I heard was any discussion about DNA evidence. We have a crime lab in the state, law enforcement agencies that are tasked with collecting evidence from locations. I believe the theory that you're being offered today is that Sade was killed at Maxwell's house. What you'll hear about Max's house, I want to tell you a couple of things they didn't tell you. One is that the house is a duplex, upper and lower. There's a stairwell you can enter through the side of the home. If you go in the stairwell, there is a lower unit that has a tenant, if you will, a tenant who lives on the lower level. His name is Pete Warbington. You'll hear his testimony in this trial. Max lives upstairs, and the two of them went to that unit, that house. Pete Warbington, who's home on the lower level, is there that night. You will hear that Mr. Warbington is a self-described or self-professed light sleeper. I think one of the things he had said to the police is, even if one of Max's dogs is chewing a bone on the floor, he would even hear that and send messages to Max, your dog is chewing a bone, you're keeping me up, you're bothering me. He's a very light sleeper guy. And what Pete Warbington will tell you is that he was home, he was there that night, there was no struggle, there was no fight, there was no horrific event, argument between Max and Sade, but this is a downstairs tenant who can hear even the TV playing. He doesn't hear a thing, nothing, no struggle, no indication whatsoever that a murder is happening or happened upstairs. There's a common basement they share, but many of you can picture the type of home I'm describing, I'm sure. You walk in the door and it's a small stairwell that goes upstairs. So presumably their theory is that Max killed Sade upstairs. They didn't say it, they're suggesting the home, but upstairs, or maybe the basement is their theory. Either way, law enforcement pulled everything from that home. They searched it not once, but twice, 2 separate searches. You will also hear, by the way, that because of the publicity this case generated, other people had access to that home, social justice people who were riled up online, who showed up at the home, entered, put up banners, entered the home, had access to the area. You'll hear about that too. But law enforcement, for sure, searched the home twice. They didn't find a murder weapon. What weapon was used to kill Sade? They didn't find any of Sade's blood with all the samples they took throughout that entire house. Every comforter, bed sheet, tabletop, wall, none of it has Sade's DNA, blood or DNA. And then I think the theory is that Max drove Sade's car and dismembered her. That Max did that. With what instruments? And you'll hear from medical examiners in this case that at least one medical examiner who will testify about the sheer force that would be required to remove human limbs. That's no easy task. It's not the kind of thing that you do with a little Swiss Army knife. It's the kind of thing that you do with things like bone saws that they use in autopsies, no evidence of which Max has ever been in possession of or ever researched anything. They looked at everything about Max. Internet history, text message history. His text messages with Sade weren't deleted. They looked through his search history. Has he researched how to cut up a body or how to kill someone? No, absolutely not. No evidence of that. You would expect that if she died at his house, as they are suggesting, that there would be blood and DNA in that home. Another thing that wasn't mentioned in opening. At Warmont Park, Sade's body, as you heard, a leg wash is located at Warmont Park. As law enforcement was looking through that area, they found bloody gloves. Now, these gloves played a central part in law enforcement's investigation because those gloves are sort of the quintessential evidence of a dismemberment or a murder. They have blood on them. They're plastic, sort of what you can picture, plastic gloves that you would wear. They're the clear type. And law enforcement, what they do is they try to determine, because they're certain you don't find bloody gloves near the scene, very close proximity to a leg. Certainly these gloves play some role in this crime. And so they look for any connection between Max and these gloves. They go to a place he volunteered at. They go to former places where he's worked. You'll hear that Max has worked at various bars in Milwaukee. He was a bartender is a bartender in the community. In that they looked at these gloves, these bloody gloves that were found by the leg, in that these gloves did not have Max Anderson's DNA on them. None. 1 in a quadrillion, or whatever the statistics are. They're not ever anything that he wore. And with respect to Sade's DNA, it's uninformative. Could be, could not be. Not able to rule it out. And not once do these gloves ever connect to Max, ever. No person that's seen him wear gloves like this, they don't match with the place he volunteered at. They don't match at any of the restaurants and kitchens that he's worked at. No connection. Sade's burning car. We know that the car is lit on fire near 30th in Lisbon or 31st in Lisbon, and you'll do with that what you will. I'll say this. The question is going to be, did Max light that car on fire? That's how you get to guilty or not guilty on the arson. Was Max the one who lit that car on fire? I find it interesting, and I hope you will too, that when we look at DNA evidence and we think about the importance of that type of evidence, the reason why it's so crucial is because we know from our human experiences that people can be wrong. We know people can be mistaken. We know that people can believe they saw something when they didn't see something. So I'm going to ask you, all of you, to implore you, study the evidence closely. When you're done with this trial and you take this back in the jury room, study everything very, very closely with a fine-tooth comb. Because eyewitnesses can be wrong, but the way we either prove or disprove it is we collect DNA swabs and we send things to our crime lab and we test them to see, does this link the person to an item? There is no accelerant or flammable liquid that connects to Max, nothing from his clothes where they can say, oh, this jacket he wore had gasoline or lighter fluid on it. But most significantly, they swabbed the exterior door handle of Sade Robinson's car. Her DNA is on her exterior door handle. Max's DNA is not. This is the same car that is burning in that area of 31st and Lisbon. And a person can be, we know from jury selection, in the wrong place at the wrong time. So what of all this video evidence that you just heard about in opening, that there's, and I told you as well, hundreds of hours of video footage that's pulled from Capitol Drive, Lisbon. Interestingly, you will hear, as Mr. Vance Curzan just told you, that when Sade left Max's house, her car actually went to Commerce Street in the Lower East Side, actually right past where she lives. You'll hear that. But what's important about the video evidence, all the footage that they pulled from every, and you'll learn a lot in this trial, the amount of cameras as you can imagine exist, double it or triple it, what you might think is out there. Pull cams that the Milwaukee Police Department keeps throughout the city. Ring doorbells you'd never know are hidden in a certain spot. Convenience stores that have a camera on the side. All of this video, all the hundreds of hours of video of when Sade's, and I say 100-hour collectively because what you're talking about is all these videos that go back hours and they examine all of them. Not one time on any of the video footage do you ever see Max Anderson driving Sade Robinson's Civic, ever. You can see the car, but you can't ever conclude that he is the one who is driving this vehicle. It's a pure speculation. And his phone never leaves his house after Sade goes home. What would one expect to see after an offense like this? What would you expect to see happens with Max Anderson? Perhaps changes in one's appearance. Perhaps they flee town. Perhaps they're acting different and nervous and unusual at work. Nothing changed with Max Anderson's routine after he and Sade had their date together. Continued to go to work. You'll hear from coworkers managers and coworkers that saw him. He continued going to his jobs. He didn't change his appearance. He didn't cut his hair. He didn't concoct some plan to leave town. He didn't try to talk to the downstairs tenant to concoct stories. None of that. And that's because he wasn't responsible for any of this. There'd be no reason for him to do those things. And when law enforcement did their investigation and began looking into things and looking for her blood and looking for her DNA, they were presented with the fact, and looking for Max on video driving her car, they were presented with the inescapable fact that all of it excludes him. And that's why you hear a phrase like common sense in voir dire and now. And I'm not telling you to ignore common sense, to be clear, not what we're saying. But when they emphasize a phrase like search for the truth, use common sense, it's at the exclusion of an equally, if not more important phrase, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Justice sometimes is hard to administer. Finding Max Anderson not guilty because there is reasonable doubt is your duty, as hard as that can be in cases where we know that they're particularly gruesome. But Max had nothing to do with these crimes. And the law says It's not enough for him to look guilty or maybe be guilty, or there's a few bad things that look bad. They have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you, as jurors, start to go into the jury room and examine these pieces of evidence, you will be confronted with nothing but reasonable doubt, and your duty is to return a not guilty verdict. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we're going to pass out notebooks to you. When you get the notebook, put your number on the front so that we know to return it to you. Okay.
I'm gonna skip ahead.
Cat about a weird angle.
And would that be like from the Bluff area?
Yeah.
She was only 19 and he was 34. And this happened last year, so it's not too long having to wait for it. And I really hope that if he did do this, that justice will happen. It's pretty damning, though, that he was with her and she went to his house, and that's the last time anybody saw or heard her.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony
Probably
you
not
give
gonna
this
go
matter
well
will
for
be
him.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you please be seated, state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Osiris Terrell. OSYRUSTERRELL.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Terrell. Do you remember the evening in the 5 o'clock hour of April 2nd, 2024?
Yeah.
Why do you remember that time and day?
It was pretty miserable. It was raining, like, pretty bad.
Where were you?
I was over by the beach.
And where, are we talking about in Milwaukee?
Cudahy.
Okay, is there a particular park or area that that beach is associated with?
Warmont.
Warnemont Park?
Yes.
Okay. Were you there with anyone?
Yeah, a buddy of mine.
Who's that?
Evan.
What's Evan's last name?
You couldn't ask me that a million times.
And you don't know?
No.
Okay. So what happened at the beach that made you remember this day?
We were walking down there, and there was a severed leg.
A severed human leg?
Yes.
Okay, where was that?
It was near the end of the trail down there.
Before we get into more details about that, could you describe what this area is like?
It's pretty, there's a lot of clay falling down from the cliff nearby, so it's pretty iffy if you can even get down there sometimes. And that week, it was raining pretty bad, like all week.
Okay, so you described the day that you were there as being pretty miserable and raining.
Yeah.
And you do you remember that it was raining previously in the week?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe Warnemont Park's a big area, right?
Sort of.
Okay. Can you describe the area and how you would get down to the beach area that you're telling us about?
So there's two ways you can go down there. You can start from Sheridan Park and walk down the trail that way, but you're still going to have to climb over a lot of stuff. The other way is there's like a gate on the south side that you can go down, but the hill is pretty steep. And even when you get down there, you have to climb through a couple trees just to get to the area. And it was raining for the past week, so it'd be pretty miserable to do it.
The gate that you're talking about, is that part of a paved road?
Yeah.
Like a service road?
Yeah.
How did you become familiar with that area?
I've been going up and down that entire area for years.
If you were just in Warnemont Park, not down by the beach, would you necessarily be able to see this area?
Yeah, but there's a lot of trees in the way. You'd have to be like at a weird angle.
And would that be like from the Bluff area?
Yeah.
So you're down there with your friend, Evan, right?
Yeah.
Describe where you're walking when you see what you discover to be a human leg?
Kind of like the beach line, really rocky area. It was covered in clay and just stuff falling from the cliff. It's probably like this much ability to walk around the area.
Okay, and you're holding your hands out, maybe
Yeah.
a 3 or 4 foot, 3 foot spread?
Yeah.
Okay. And what drew your attention to that bluff area?
It was just the intention the whole time. There's no other way we couldn't go back just because the waves were pretty extreme that day. So we had to go over there, and we just had no choice.
What drew your attention to the leg?
It was a pretty narrow path, so it's kind of hard to miss. At first we thought it was like a mannequin leg, and we got a closer look and realized what it really was.
How'd that make you feel?
It's kind of hard to say even now. I don't think it's really hit me, but yeah.
What did you do?
We went up pretty much immediately, called the cops, and that's all I really remember from that time.
The police department came, right?
Yeah.
And did you have contact with a police officer or a couple police officers?
Yes, but most of the time I was in the car.
Okay. Were you down with the police officers on the beach area?
No.
You told them what you told us here today?
Yes.
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Cross.
Did you see any other people down by the beach when you were there?
No, it's just us that day.
That's all.
State anything further?
No.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. State your next witness.
The state calls Officer Zachary DeSmet.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
Name is Zachary DeSmet. First name is Zachary, Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y. Last name DeSmet, D-E-S-M-E-T.
How are you employed?
The city of Cudahy.
As a police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been with the Cudahy Police Department?
4 years.
Were you working on April 2nd, 2024?
Yes, I was.
And were you dispatched to Warnemont Park that day?
Yes, I was.
Around what time?
It was in the afternoon, early evening, late afternoon.
What were you dispatched there for?
I was dispatched there for a caller reporting that they found a human leg on the beach.
Warnemont Park, is that in the city of Cudahy?
Yes, it is. We have two parks, Sheridan Park and Warnemont. They border each other.
So the Cudahy Police Department has jurisdiction over that area?
Typically, it's the sheriff's department that handles the parks, but if there's any imminent calls that come out or anybody that needs help immediately, we'll respond initially to stabilize the scene, and then it's usually turned over to the sheriff's department if needed.
Are you familiar with that area?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe the weather that day if you remember?
The weather was pretty rough. It was rainy, very cloudy, strong winds, especially down at the beach.
What did you do when you got there?
Excuse me. I arrived on scene traveling east on Pulaski Avenue, which comes from Lake Drive into the park. The water department is on the northeast corner of the intersection. Drive down, and then you'll come into with Sheridan Drive, and then there's another drive that leads down to the actual pump house with a gate. Arrived on scene, parked on Sheridan Drive facing north, and then observed two males in the field that would lead to the gate.
That location is in the county of Milwaukee, correct?
Yes, it is.
Describe I think what you described was like a service road with a gate.
Correct, yes.
Can you describe that further?
When you get, so there's the intersection, and then before you could turn right or south into Warnemont Golf Course or north onto Sheridan Drive. But then if you continue east, it's probably, I don't know, 20 yards worth of road, a service gate, and then there's a gap in the fence where people can walk themselves.
Did you notice anything unusual about the service gate when you arrived?
I did. I noticed that it was pretty heavily damaged.
So that's not a service gate that's like open to the public, right?
Not usually, no. I think only our water department has access to that.
Was there anything else aside from the gate being damaged in that area?
Not in the shoe and I observed, no.
But you said there were 2 individuals in a field.
Correct.
Were you able to identify those people?
Yes, we were.
Who were they?
It was Evan Millies and Osiris Terrell.
What did you later learn they were?
The people that discovered the leg down at the beach.
Was one of them the 911 caller?
Yes.
And did you have contact with them?
Yes, I did.
What happened next?
Well, I observed them to be, especially Mr. Millies, to be in a kind of a frantic state, obviously seeing something like that. They gave me a brief rundown that they think they found a human leg at the beach and wanted to show me where it was. So I had Mr. Terrell sit in the back of my squad car. I'm more familiar with Mr. Millies, so I had him take me down to the beach. We went through that side gate, or at the opening in the fence, where people can walk through freely. When you walk down, it's a steep hill, because at that point of the park, it's very cliff-like. So there's the service drive down to the actual water pump house is very steep, so we walked down there.
Can you further describe that area?
Sure. So when you're walking down the service drive, like I said, it's very steep. It's wooded on both sides with a little bit of an embankment that goes up the sides of it. And when you get down to the bottom, it's actually brand new, renovated, I think last year or the year before. It's a pretty open area for vehicles to park, and then there's a building on the right-hand side that has a fence around it that I believe has 2 security cameras, barbed wire. It comes down to the lake. There's large rocks at the end of it where it immediately abuts with Lake Michigan.
What is that building?
That's the pump house.
Okay. And that is a Cudahy city-owned building?
Correct.
You said the newly renovated parking area, is that open to the public or is that for the pump house?
That's for the pump house.
Okay, so there's not another public access to that area, is there?
That's correct, there's not.
So can the general public drive a car down there?
No, they cannot.
Can you further describe, as you're going down there with Mr. Millies, how he directs you towards the leg?
Sure. So when we got down to the bottom, he had pointed me north from there. Obviously, there's a lot of debris on the beach, driftwood, rocks, etc., so I couldn't just clearly see it, especially with the distance. Now, I am an evidence technician, so I know one thing that's really harped on in those trainings is keeping the scene secure and to not contaminate it as needed. So my initial plan was where there's the parking lot, there's kind of a steep hillside next to it where you can walk down. However, it was kind of sketchy that day because of the wetness. So my initial plan was I was going to have Mr. Millies stay up there. I was going to go down to the beach and then have him point me in the right direction as well as yell direction to me. I attempted to do that, but after, like I said, with the wind and the waves crashing after about 20 yards, I couldn't even hear him anymore. So I reapproached him, had him come down with me. At that point, I had him walk in front of me. He had a jacket on, so I grabbed the back of his jacket just to be able to direct him. Or if I saw anything that I thought was of evidentiary value, I could direct him or prevent him from destroying or stepping on it.
Can you describe, once you leave like the parking lot pump house area, is there a path? Is it like is there a clear way to get to the beach from there?
Not really. Like I said, there's kind of a hillside on the side that is walkable, but again, depending on the conditions, it can be kind of iffy. That day was kind of rough, but we were able to get down there. The beach at that part is primarily rock, smaller rock, but still kind of generally unstable to walk on. And then you'd have the lake or Lake Michigan on your right-hand side or the east side. And then on the west side would be a steep cliff, essentially, from Warnemont and Sheridan Parks.
As you and Mr. Millies are going through that area, what, if anything, do you see?
So, like I said, there's a lot of water coming down off the sides of the cliff, a lot of debris. The waves were crashing pretty heavily. While I was walking down there before that, Mr. Millies told me that the leg was actually located on the side of the cliff
or the side of the embankment about 10 to 15 feet up. So as we were walking north on the beach, that's where I was initially looking.
So it was up from the water line?
Yes.
Approximately how far?
10 to 15 feet, he said, up on the embankment.
At what point do you see it?
We were walking probably for a little bit, probably about 100, 125 yards. And like I said, we were both looking left to the cliff, and he was estimating and saying that like it should be right around here based on some things that he had seen. And then as we continued walking, he got startled really quick. And I was like, what's up? And he's like, it's right there. And so I had moved him to the side, and about 5 to 8 feet in front of us was the leg was located there.
And where was it relative to the embankment?
It was close to it, probably within 10 to 15 feet from the embankment.
Given the rain, was there erosion that was happening?
Yeah, there's some pretty severe, even you could see different streams cutting lines into the sides of the cliffs.
What did you do next?
At that point, I radioed my dispatchers and advised them that the leg was there, was confirmed, to request MCSO's response to shut down the scene. The only ways into the scene are from the Pump House Road and the S-curve down in Sheridan Park, which would be a significant walk, and then advise them on how to get to my location.
Before we go further in that area, can you describe how you would access that area from Sheridan Park?
From Sheridan Park, which is quite a ways north, probably at least half a mile, I'd say, or somewhere in that ballpark. You have to walk down a path. It's a steep path, but it goes down. It is paved down to the beach. And then you'd have to walk further south. You'd have to walk south quite a ways on that beachfront to even get to that scene.
When you located the leg, what were your impressions? What were you able to readily discern?
I could readily see that it was what I believe to be a black female, a leg from either a late teenager or younger black female. The leg was short and had pink nail polish on the toenails.
What did you do then?
At that point, I had Mr. Millie's stay. I put him on a rock, a bigger rock there. I told him to stay there, not move, and he stayed there until the MCSO deputies Leon Martin and Michael Kruger arrived on scene, which at that point he was later escorted up there, back up the hill to where I would assume he would be interviewed further in depth.
So the sheriff's department joined you?
Correct.
In your walk with Mr. Millie's down the beach and in your observations in the area around the leg, was there anything else that you located?
I believe that on the way down there, Mr. Millie's made me aware that there was like a bra and maybe a t-shirt that were located, but he was unaware if it was related.
Then what did you do?
At that point, Deputies Martin and Kruger took Mr. Millie's back up to interview him. Upon further investigation, I was looking at the leg that it was cut from the basically hip joint down to the foot. Other than that, the leg did not appear to be disturbed, and I observed the cuts on the leg to be clean and not intentional. Or intentional, I mean.
That the cuts were or were not intentional?
Were. That they were straight, not jagged, not torn.
Did you move the leg at all?
Yes, I did. I had to move it 2 or 3 times just because the time of the day the waves were getting, like I said, we were getting some pretty good waves and they were moving further and further inland. So 2 or 3 times I had to move the leg further west to prevent it from being taken by the water, which was documented on body camera as well.
How did you do that?
I grabbed it by the ankle with my left hand and under the thigh with my right hand. Physically picked it up, moved it about 5-10 feet, set it down in the same way that it was laying, and then advised my dispatch to log that it had been moved.
Did it appear to have been in the water or decomposed?
It did not appear to be decomposing. It appeared to be fresh just based on my experience with other deceased humans. And there was a lack of blood. I didn't really see much blood on it at all, which also could be attributed to the rain that had been coming down.
That beach area, how would you describe the area in general?
It's usually pretty calm. We don't really ever get calls there mostly. Anything, it's usually like a dog complaint or someone just kind of loitering. But it's a beautiful area. It's not frequently traveled. It's hidden, secluded. Like I said, that was the second time I've ever been down there for an actual call.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Cross?
How long have you been a police officer?
4 years.
Okay, with Cudahy the whole time.
Yes, sir.
And Warmont Park is entirely within the geographical area of Cudahy, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have, would you agree with me that the park itself is 248 acres?
Sounds about right.
It has an 18-hole golf course,
Yes.
has a dog park.
Yes. Further south, much further south, the dog park is, but yes.
Right, because Warmont Park stretches along the coast of Lake Michigan, basically, right?
Correct, from about Pulaski Avenue down to College Avenue.
Exactly. And so there's walking trails, right?
Yes, there are.
And there's, you said there's a dog park also at Warmont Park, right?
That's correct.
And isn't the Oakleaf Trail, doesn't the Oakleaf Trail run through Warmont Park or into Warmont Park?
It does go through it.
Right, there's trails you can run on from Cudahy in Warmont Park and head north if you wanted to, right?
Yes, there's one paved path that goes to the park for the Oak Leaf Trail.
And there's even races that go through there. There's the South Shore Half Marathon, for example, that runs through that area, right?
There have been, yes.
So the park, when you say secluded, you're referring to that little beach area, but the park itself is not a secluded park, right?
That would be correct, yes.
In fact, it's a heavily trafficked park with lots of activities, right?
Yes, that part of the park where the pump house is located isn't as traveled as the other sections, but yes.
Right. And I think I heard you say before that a person, if they wanted to, can walk along the beach north to south or south to north. Didn't you say that?
Yes, I did.
In other words, where you find the leg, if a person had wanted to, they could walk up and down that beach north if they wanted to.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, there's other parks that even connect in with it. There's Grant Park to the south, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And Pulaski Park to the west?
Yes, but it doesn't really connect much.
And even Sheridan Park to the north, which you testified to, right?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all.
State?
Nothing further.
Thank you, officer. You may step down. State your next witness.
Deputy Leon Martin.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
Name's Leon Martin, Leon Martin.
How are you employed?
Deputy Sheriff with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked for the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office?
4 years.
You assigned to patrol, basically?
Yes, sir.
All right. Were you working back on April 2nd, 2024?
I was.
And what was your shift that day?
Second shift patrol.
What is second shift out in hours?
2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay. Around 5:30 in the evening that day, were you dispatched to a call for service at Warnemont Park?
I was.
Is that at or near 5400 South Lake Drive in the city of Cudahy, Milwaukee County?
That's correct.
What was the nature of the call you were responding to?
There was a report of a possible human leg found on the beach at Warnemont Park.
And that was information conveyed to you by dispatch? So
Correct.
essentially you know what you're going
Correct.
towards? Okay. When you arrived on scene, were there other law enforcement already there?
There was.
Members of the Cudahy Police Department?
Yep.
Okay. What did you do when you got there?
I walked down. Initially, I parked at the top of the hill that leads down to the pump house. Was directed down the hill by other members of the Cudahy Police Department. Walked down the hill and was kind of flagged over to the area where police officers from Cudahy Police Department were already there.
This area that you walked down to would have been the pump house that is on the shores of Lake Michigan. Fair?
That's correct.
When you got down there, were you guided to where this body part was recovered?
I was.
And were you wearing a body cam at the time?
I was.
I'm going to have you take a look to your right if you can. On the screen here, I have what's marked as exhibit number 10. Do you recognize that?
I'll stipulate that's his body cam.
I'll play a clip from this first. This is exhibit number 10. The video is titled SUSP-5 Martin. I'm going to play a short clip here. All right, I paused it at 8 seconds, started it at 0. Can you orient us right now? Where are we?
So we're at the bottom of the hill. Right now I'm facing north, looking down towards the beach.
All right, and on the left side, there is that steep cliff embankment. If you went up on the top of that, that's where the park would be, correct?
Correct.
You are at the end of the service road here?
Yes.
And did you have to climb down anything to get to the location where this video picked up?
I did. There was large tree branches and like other foliage and whatnot that was in the way.
Not somewhere a vehicle could get to, fair?
Correct.
But you indicated earlier that you had walked down the service road, and at the end of the service road, what's there?
There's like a barrier, like a traffic barrier, and then the lake is there. So it's like a roundabout, so you can turn around and drive back up the hill.
So vehicles can essentially get all the way down to essentially the shoreline, but could not get down to where you are right now in this video.
That's correct.
What do you have to do to get down to where you are in this video?
I had to climb over a couple of large trees and just other like rocks and whatnot.
And how far did you have to walk to get to the leg?
That was about estimated probably about 100 to 150 yards.
Where I have this video paused, you're basically at the start of that walk. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to play it until 4:10. And there's no audio right now. When does the audio pick up?
Approximately 30 seconds.
That because that's how your body cameras work?
Correct. When you activate your body cam, it plays 30 seconds before you actually activate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. I just cleaned my boots too, dude. Fuck, man.
Stand by. I have the on-call sheet. I'm trying to figure out what you do.
Take that. All right. What's up, man?
So this is Evan Millies. We've dealt with him before. Sometimes mostly a good guy. He's gotten in this trouble a couple times, but good dude.
Okay.
So they walked down the S curve from Sheridan. Started walking south just for fun. You know, rough day on the beach. As they were walking, see that leg right there?
Yeah.
Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that branches.
By the bushes right there.
Yeah, bushes. Said that they saw it up
So it was
there.
like up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So said that him and his buddy, who's in my squad right now, walked out, called us, and then when we came back, it was about, I don't know, maybe 7 feet east. I moved it just for evidence purposes.
Okay, so it doesn't get swept away?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I documented it well on body cam with different angles of where it was. And
okay, cool. All right, we got a...
You want to tell me where it is?
What's your name again, bud?
Evan.
Evan? Okay, Evan. How long were you out here?
About probably an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
About 16.
Are you usually come this way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's going
The
to be
first time you seen
Marco.
anything here?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the first time you seen anything like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right, Evan. Just hang tight. Don't go anywhere, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. That is 100% correct. Copy, thank you.
All right, hang on, Evan. We'll talk to you some more, okay?
And then called us.
Yeah, but at least they called.
Paused your body camera at 4:09. The object's right here, Deputy. That's the length, correct?
Correct.
Now, as we were watching that video, sorry. You're able to see the waves there were pretty violent. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And it was a rainy day?
It was.
Did you observe any blood or any kind of thing like that near the leg?
I did not.
Or near the area where he had originally indicated the leg was found?
That's correct. There was no blood around the area or on the hill where it was initially found at.
What did you observe about the leg when you saw it?
The toenails were painted with pink nail polish. Based on the size of the leg, I could estimate that the person that the leg came from was rather short. The leg didn't appear to be decomposing in any type of way. So I was estimating that it had been placed there relatively, short time ago.
The other member of the sheriff's department that we saw in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the person you first talked to, that was Officer DeSmet, correct?
Correct.
The other member of the sheriff's department, who was that?
That's Deputy Michael Krieger.
Did you and Deputy Krieger canvass the scene or search the scene?
We did.
What did you find?
Nothing else of evidentiary value.
No other body parts, correct?
That's correct.
Was the medical examiner's office called to the scene?
They were.
Did they come?
They did.
Did they take possession of the leg?
They did.
Throughout that time, were there other members of your department who responded as well?
There were.
Did you search other areas, not just on the shoreline that we were watching on that video, but other areas of the park as well?
That's correct. At the top of the bluff that was on the left side of the video, that's a wooded area. Myself and multiple detectives and other MCSO personnel searched the wooded area and didn't find anything else.
I have no other questions.
Cross?
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
So I just want to make sure I understand from where the parking lot is to the beach. So you said it's kind of like a wooded area?
Not necessarily. There's a steep slope, like a driveway to access the Warnemount pump house. It's not necessarily a parking lot. It's just a service road that leads down to the pump house.
Okay, so to get from like the parking lot where the pump house is to the beach, is that flat or is it slanted or what's the terrain look like?
So it's like deteriorated from time and weather. So it's a steep hill that kind of goes down.
Okay, so it goes from parking lot, steep hill to the beach.
Correct.
And we could see on the video, it looks like the beach is quite small.
It is.
It's basically cliff, a little landing space, and then the water.
That's correct.
Is it always like that, or do you not know?
I'm not too familiar with that particular beach. That was my first time actually being on that portion of the beach.
Okay, and you said that you didn't observe any blood or anything.
That's correct.
Did you observe any drag marks as like a body was dragged?
I did not.
Did you you said you didn't locate any evidence of evidentiary value?
That's correct.
So you didn't find like a saw?
No.
You didn't find an axe?
No.
Or any sort of knife?
That's correct.
And it looks like you're walking through, it's a pretty muddy area. It looks like it's made of maybe like clay.
Yeah, or mud or like sand and whatnot. It's not like a normal beach, like Bradford Beach or whatnot.
Okay. I have nothing further.
State?
Nothing else.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Judge.
Does anyone need a bathroom break on the jury? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute morning break, and then we'll come back and continue the testimony. Please leave your notebooks on your chair or on the bench in front of you.
And we're going to skip the break.
Donna.
To respond.
And you were the detective from CID who responded?
That's correct.
Were there other detectives who eventually responded?
There were.
But essentially, the scene investigation, you were going to take over that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. After being briefed by Deputy Krieger, what did you do?
I initially just kind of did a once over of the overall area to get an idea of what it was that I was dealing with. The conditions were very poor. That lower area next to the pump house was under construction. They were going to be paving a certain area and laying grass, but at that time it was gravel and a lot of mud and muck. I changed into boots and was guided by Deputy Krieger down the beach. To get to that area, there is a very narrow tree line, and then it's a precarious, steep decline. It's short, but it's very steep, that you have to actually hang on to trees and roots or you'll lose your footing. From there, it was about 100 to 150 yards to the location of the lake. That terrain was rocky. The rocks varied in size from pebbles all the way up to probably the size of cantaloupes. It was not an easy navigation to get to.
When you walked that 100 and 150 yards, what did you see?
There I saw what appeared to be the right leg of a black female. Based on the condition, it appeared that it wasn't there for very long. I did not see any visible decomposition. The skin was very smooth, free of blemishes. I didn't see any noticeable scarring or any tattoos on it. The nail polish was a bright pink color, and it appeared that it might be from a younger woman.
What about its appearance did you take note of, if you want to elaborate on why you say that it appeared to be from a younger woman?
Just the condition of the skin. It had a very youthful appearance to it. It was not crepey. There was, like I said, there was no decomposition, so it was in very good condition.
What were you able to discern, if anything, about the size of this human?
At one point, we had to move the leg again due to the waves crashing up a little too close to it. Deputy Krieger picked it up upright with the foot to the ground and the thigh upwards, and I noticed that the leg appeared to be a little bit shorter than I was, and I'm 5'3". It also, size-wise, looked similar to my weight. At that time was 170 pounds.
Did you notice an obvious line where it had been dismembered from the body?
I did.
What did you observe about that?
When the leg was being moved, the fold of skin and flesh had moved away from the bone. You could see that it was severed below that top ball of the femur. It looked like it was a tool mark. It was very smooth all the way up to the end, and then it looks like it was snapped. It reminded me of a tree branch that you're sawing and you get so far and you're like, just gonna break it. It broke off and it was like a piece, jagged piece at the end. I noticed that the skin had kind of a long zigzag pattern to it, which is usually indicative of cutting rather than pulling to be ripped apart. That's why I was able to determine that it probably was not from like an accident, a boating accident, or anything like that.
Did you bring a camera?
I did.
Did you take photos of the scene as well as of the leg?
I did.
I'm going to show you exhibits 2 through 9. And I'm going to bring them up on the TV screen with you. But first, why don't you page through 2 through 9 and tell me if you recognize those.
I do. These are the photos that I took.
Not all of them, correct?
No, I took more than this.
Okay. I moved 2 through 9 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
They're received.
All right. Detective, I'm going to bring up exhibits 2 through 9 on my screen here. If I bring one up that is not one that's in front of you, tell me. Okay? Thank you. All right. Let's start with, this is going to be exhibit number... Is this exhibit number 2?
It is.
Okay. What are we looking at?
This is a view of the beach shoreline area looking north.
Okay. The waves over here, they were pretty substantial that day?
They were in growing.
And through your experience with working with the sheriff's office, do you have any familiarity with the shores of Warnemont Park?
I do.
Do the tides change?
They do, dependent on the weather.
All right. And this weather on this day was what?
It was rainy. There was mixed sleet that day. The winds were really high. It was not a pleasant day.
And then off to the left side here is the leg.
That's correct.
This exhibit marker here, someone from your department put that there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Move to exhibit 3. What are we looking at here?
This is taken from the same position as exhibit number 2. I just rotated and now we're looking southbound.
For purposes of sort of giving a visual as to how far you had to walk?
That's correct.
All right. And so I'm going to zoom here. There's 2 people. These would be investigators or people that were there on scene when you were doing your investigation, correct?
That's correct.
What are we looking at over here that I'm circling with my mouse, where this wave is crashing into?
So that's where the bottom of the hill, where the pump house is. There's that kind of paved area. Well, at that time it was not paved. And they have a break wall, and then there's the large boulders that go down into the lake. Just to the right of that is that rather steep embankment that I had to crawl down to get to the shoreline.
All right. So would that be where my mouse is right now?
Yes, it's a little hidden from view. Yes.
This sort of right angle here that I'm highlighting with my mouse, is that the pump house?
It is.
And that's kind of over the bluff there, over the cliff?
Correct.
Okay. So and the service road would be also right by that pump house, correct?
Yes.
All right. Gonna go to exhibit 4. What is this?
This would be in, again, the same location. I'm just now looking west and up the bluff, just to demonstrate how steep that is as well.
And at the bottom, it's angled, but at the top here, it kind of actually gets vertical. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
One would have an extremely difficult, if not impossible, time trying to get down here from the top of that cliff, right?
Definitely.
Okay. Next exhibit. What are we looking at?
It is another picture of the leg.
Next exhibit. What number is this?
Number 6.
What are we looking at?
That is the top thigh portion of the leg.
And this is what you were describing before. What did you note about how it was cut?
You can see, if you mind, if I can get down to point.
You may.
Thank you. It's this large zigzag motion that led me to believe that it was an instrument that did the severing and not being ripped.
You said an instrument?
Correct.
And then you had also mentioned that part of what you were able to observe of the leg made you believe that an instrument stopped being used. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well,
on the
describe
bone
that again.
portion, yes.
Okay.
It's not visible in this photo. The flesh is covering that portion up again, but it does look smooth, like when you would cut a bone with a knife or saw.
Next exhibit. What number is this?
Number 7, and that shows her pink toenail polish.
All right, zoom in on that. This is exhibit number 8. What is this?
This is the top of the thigh portion, where you can again see the rather Z-like jagged serration marks.
And lastly, exhibit 9.
Again, just showing the location of the leg. At this point, it had been moved a few times. Still laying in the same position, like still facing the same direction, just had to move it closer to the embankment there.
Do you recall about how far up the leg was described originally to have been when Evan and Osiris found it?
Probably be about 10 to 15 feet. It'd be right about where that bush is in the photo, that dark spot.
Where I'm circling?
Correct.
Okay. Did you assist with other investigators in searching the other parts of that coastline?
Correct.
And I'm specifically talking about down by the water, not up on the cliff.
Just in my travels back and forth between my squad and to the leg, I would search as I would go by to look for anything else. I did not find anything else.
Were other members of your department out there searching as well?
Yes.
And where nothing else was found?
No.
About how far up and down the coastline were people searching?
I do not know how far they went to the north, but I do know that they did also go to the north of the leg location, but we did search rather extensively from the leg to the south.
Okay. Did you make a request of the Coast Guard?
I did. I asked to see if they could come with their searchlights to scan the bluff area. We were starting to lose light at that point. They denied our request due to the weather.
Was the area of the bluff searched nevertheless?
It was.
And how about up above the bluff in the wood line? Were investigators also heavily searching that area?
We did. It was due to have a snowstorm that night, and I was worried about losing any potential evidence to a snow cover. That's when Detective Colehop and Detective Bacon also responded to the scene, and along with the deputies on the scene and Officer DeSmet, we all started to comb that upper area. It's a lot of very narrow paths, I guess. They're just worn down between the tree line and that parkway area that you see. We went through there extensively trying to find anything else and did not find any other evidence.
Okay, I want to actually bring back up, I want to say this is going to be exhibit number 3 on the screen. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. Now, obviously, you came down here and were able to walk to where you were standing. You walked in a northern direction to get to where you're standing when you took this picture. Is there a way to walk? Is there a path essentially that would get you down over to the other side of the pump house, or is it kind of rocky and treacherous along there?
It is. It's similar to that on top of the bluff area. The path south of the pump house is very narrow and it's just dirt. I did not go any farther south just because I didn't feel it was safe.
No other body parts were located in the area of Warnemont Park, is that correct?
That's correct.
The medical examiner's office came and took possession of the leg?
They did.
Was it assigned case number 24-02296?
It was.
And their role was to conduct an autopsy of the leg at that time, right?
That's correct.
In addition to looking for other body parts, did you look for any other items that you thought might have some value?
I did.
And did you take note of anything?
I did not.
Okay. Any clothing found?
There was a t-shirt and a bra, and that would have been very close to that initial tree line where you'd have to walk down. The bra was under driftwood and kind of covered with sand. The same with the t-shirt. It was up and off a little ways. They appeared to have been there for a while.
They were soaked?
They were.
Okay. And you say appeared to have been there for a while, and they were covered by like driftwood, you said?
Debris, sand, and pieces of charred wood.
Did it appear they were naturally covered by that stuff, or like someone tried to bury them?
Naturally.
Okay, so your takeaway essentially was that you believe those had been there for a while.
Correct.
Is this a location where you've seen other stuff like that since you've been back there after this date?
Nothing really clothing-wise. It appears that there might be a place that kids like to go to have fires right next to the parking lot area. That's where the charred wood is. Sometimes you'll find beer cans and things like that, but that's the only things that I've really found since I've been there.
And you're specifically talking about this area sort of right by where that pump house service road ends, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's the location where this bra and shirt was found?
Correct.
The following day, April 3rd, 2024, were you contacted by the Milwaukee Police Department?
I was.
What was the nature of that contact?
I was asked to call an officer, Nora Burlow, that she had taken a welfare check the prior night for a Sade Robinson who had been reported missing by a coworker.
Was there another report to Milwaukee Police regarding Miss Robinson?
There was. Officer Burlow told me that she noticed this welfare check because it was an area that they don't often get called to, being Sade Robinson's apartment on North Commerce. When she opened the call up, she noticed that there was an associated call for a burnt out car earlier that morning, and that really piqued her interest, and that's when she went to the apartment.
In response to learning that information from the Milwaukee Police Department, did you look into Sade Robinson's demographics?
I did.
And did Sade's description, through what you were able to find, seem to match the description of the leg that you had recovered at Warnemont Park?
It did, according to the DOT demographics. She appeared to be the same height and weight and skin coloring of the leg.
Just a few other questions about this topic, Detective Donner. in the days, weeks, time period after April 2nd, when you first went to Warnemont Park, were there other searches of the park involving canine units?
There were.
Do you know how many?
I don't know the specific number for Warnemont Park, but I believe we had a total of 8 canine searches in various different areas. We had ground penetrating radar, as well as a specialized unit that does water searches as well.
Who is that?
That's Bruce's Legacy.
It's
a
an organization?
volunteer group. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they came out to the location that we see here in Exhibit 1 and searched the coastline near where the leg was found?
They did on a couple of occasions, yes.
Do you know exactly how many, or do you just know it was more than one?
I believe it was 2.
Nothing found?
No, nothing was found.
Was a drone unit ever flown around this area to try to find more body parts?
It was for a better view of the bluffs, yes.
What did that yield?
Nothing.
And were dive teams used to go into Lake Michigan near this location to attempt to locate more body parts?
They were.
And was anything ever found there?
No, there wasn't.
The area depicted in Exhibit 1, that shoreline, how many times have you been there?
Probably a couple dozen since April 1st of last year.
Do you ever see anybody else down in that area of the shoreline where the leg was found?
Objection relevance.
I'll allow it. You can answer it.
Not on the shoreline portion. On the upper portion, I would see people walking their dogs, but not actually down by the lake.
I have no other questions at this time. This is a witness I would recall at a later time for a different topic.
Understood. Cross-examination?
Thank you, Detective. Good morning.
Good morning.
You said that in the times you've been there, you've noticed a spot where kids hang out, and you said something about noticing beer cans. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct.
And that's near the parking area by the pump house is where you're describing that?
Correct.
You say kids hang out. Did you ever have contact with kids that were hanging out there, or you're just using that as a generalization based on what you see?
I spent 15 years on our parks unit in various forms, from mounted patrol to working in a squad. And when we would get called down to that area for smoke, that's where they would always be. And they generally were underage.
Okay, so you're talking people under 21 is what you mean?
Correct.
By underage. And this time when you went there, so it was April 1st?
Or April 2nd, I'm sorry.
April 2nd was the first, when you went there for the leg, right?
Correct.
Was that the first time you had been to Warnemont Park, or in your 15 years prior, had you been there on other occasions?
I've been there on other occasions.
Okay, so when you're saying a couple dozen times before to the jury, are you talking since April 2nd, couple dozen times in the last year, right?
Yes.
But then many times before that?
Yes, enough to be familiar with it, yes.
Got it. You said the conditions that day, obviously we can see the photos, windy, stormy, waves, all accurate description, right?
Correct.
Eventually, at some point, 2 gloves were found, were they not?
Yes, I did not do that, but yes.
Okay, you weren't involved in that?
I was not.
You weren't called to the scene to recover those?
I was not.
So you played no role in any glove recovery?
No.
You just know about it as the lead detective?
Correct.
Now, the day, April 2nd, when you were there, you said you called in a canine search. Did you do that?
No, not on that day. It was, I do believe, the next day.
April 3rd?
Yes.
In a canine search, just so the jury understands, is a cadaver dog, you could call it, right?
That's correct.
In other words, you can give the dog a scent and it knows to look for human scent, right?
That's correct.
Blood and things like that trigger this dog.
Correct.
As opposed to looking for animals.
That's correct.
And the canine dog was used the next day and found nothing.
No, not that, to my knowledge, they did not find anything.
Were you involved in the canine handling?
I was not.
The ground penetrating radar that was used, did you use the ground penetrating radar?
No, I was not present for any of the searches. Generally, the way it works, I then become the orchestrator of the investigation, and I rarely go back out.
Got it. So questions about what Bruce's legacy did or ground penetrating radar, you're not there for that.
I was there for one of Bruce's legacies.
Those are the underwater divers that look for things.
Not actual divers. They have sonar equipment that they put underwater that have cameras.
Now, let's focus on April 2nd when you were there that day. We saw when the state was showing you pictures of the beach line area. Could you pull up the pictures again, Ian? Yeah. Okay, so this is Exhibit 3, Detective Dunn. Does that look familiar?
Yes.
Do you have the actual printed photos in front of you?
I do.
Did I just have those?
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
So Exhibit 3, on Exhibit 3, we can see all the way down the beach line towards the pump house. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And if I heard you correctly, if I heard you correctly before, I thought because of the conditions, you were deprived of bringing in Coast Guard personnel, right?
That's correct.
So you can make a request, but it's not honored because it's too dangerous.
Correct.
So the search that was conducted on April 2nd is essentially of that shoreline down to that pump house. Is that fair to say?
Correct, and on the top of the bluff.
And the top of the bluff. South of the pump house, not that day.
Not that day, no.
And that's primarily due to the conditions, I assume.
Correct.
As the lead detective, you are aware of the fact that these bloody gloves were found south of the pump house on a later date.
Correct.
Anything else? Those are all my questions for this topic. Thank you.
State.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Detective. State your next witness.
Frank Miller.
Sir, if you could please remain standing and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
Yes, I
help
do.
you God? Thank you. If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
Francis Miller, Francis Miller.
How are you employed, sir?
I'm currently semi-retired and working for a consulting firm managing the Cudahy Water Utility part-time. Prior to that, up until December 31st of 2024, I was the water superintendent for the city of Cudahy. In the last 4 years, I was the director of public works and water for the city of Cudahy.
All right. So you worked for the Cudahy Water Department for your career?
Yes, sir.
And even after retiring, you're working with them again?
Yes, I am on a part-time basis.
All right. I got what's marked and entered as Exhibit 1 up on the TV screen next to you. I trust you're able to see that from where you are?
Yes, I can.
And I take it based on your answers to those questions about where you worked, you recognize this area?
Yes, it's an overhead view of the Cudahy High School and Pulaski Avenue that heads down to the city's water pumping station on the shore of Lake Michigan.
The building I'm pointing to here, that would be?
That's the city's water treatment facility at 5110 South Lake Drive.
All All right, and then the building down here, that's the pump house.
That is the city's pump house. It pumps fresh water from Lake Michigan to the treatment plant.
All right. To get from this building, the water treatment facility,
Yes.
all the way to the pump house,
Yes.
you'd go down Pulaski Avenue, and what would you encounter?
At the top of the hill, just after the intersection of Pulaski Avenue and Sheridan Drive, there's a large gate, a 2-section gate that's locked to prevent vehicles from going down to that pump house.
Who has the keys to that lock?
Cudahy Water Department personnel, Cudahy Fire Department, and the Cudahy Police Department.
I want to take you back, sir, to around April 1st and 2nd of 2024. Around those days, specifically on April 2nd, did you come into contact with the Cudahy Police Department regarding your gate?
Yes, I was contacted. On April 1st, we had a contractor doing some paving along the lakefront at our pump house. The morning of April 2nd, an inspector who was going down to look at the job called me to tell me that overnight someone had rammed the gate going down to the pump house. He sent me a couple pictures. When I looked at the pictures, I called Cudahy Dispatch, asked if it were possible to have an officer meet me at Pulaski Avenue to fill out a police report. It's standard for us to be able to file an insurance claim.
Was that an unusual occurrence for the gate to be smashed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall about the time that you reported that to the Cudahy Police?
Somewhere around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning.
On April 2nd?
On April 2nd, Tuesday.
And to the best of your knowledge, April 1st, going into the night of April 1st into April 2nd, no issues with the gate?
There were no issues with the gate when the contractors left approximately 4 p.m. on Monday, April 1st.
That gate and that road, would that essentially be the only way to get a car down to the pump house?
Yes, it is.
It's kind of a steep downhill decline, correct?
It's very steep and there's no other access.
Sir, can you take your microphone and bend it like this? That might, if you just bend it down like that, it'll stop the whistling, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
We'll find out.
Okay.
I've got all those here. Yep, I've got all those here. When you went out to the gate, what did you observe?
The gate had been hit really hard. It's a large industrial fence gate. The post that it was in had been moved, and there were plastic car parts like you would see from the front of a car that had a collision laying around on the pavement.
I'm going to show you some photographs, sir. I'm going to start with exhibits 13 through 26.
I thought the mic sounded just fine.
And tell me if you recognize any or all of those photos.
I recognize many of the photos. Many of them are similar to photos I took. I may have taken a few of these. There's like 1 or 2 photos here that I'm not sure if I've seen before.
Sure. Why don't you pull out the ones you know you've seen before?
These are the ones I've seen before, sir.
All right. So you recognize these as being from the area of the pump house gate. I don't know what's causing that.
I don't.
Do you recognize these all from being from the area of the pump house gate from that time?
Yes, I do.
All right. So I'm going to move in at 13, 14, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No.
Those are received.
You take these. Thank you. And I'm going to ask to publish.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Exhibit 13 here on the screen. What is this? what did it appear to be when you were there and saw it?
It looked like it came from the front end of a car, the plastic front end pieces around your headlights and stuff. It looked like it was a piece of that.
And you saw those pieces yourself when you
Yes.
were on scene?
When I stopped to look while I was waiting for the Cudahy PD to show up, I saw them myself.
Maybe try putting it back up. Maybe I was wrong.
We'll figure it out.
Maybe it's my voice.
Now, obviously, this isn't the only photo of the parts we're going to see, but
She told them to move
was
it
there
back.
something about these parts that led you to believe what kind of vehicle it was?
Several of them, when you looked on the inside, were marked Honda. And if you did a quick internet search on your phone with some of the part numbers, it popped up with models that it possibly could have been, and the Civic popped up quite a bit.
The Civic.
A Honda Civic.
Exhibit 14. This is one of those pieces you discussed with the Honda.
Correct.
All right, and that's written at the bottom.
It's written on the bottom in the black plastic.
And so you did your own searches of those.
It was natural curiosity while I was waiting for the police officer to show up.
All right. Exhibit 19. What are we looking at?
That's looking down Pulaski Avenue, heading east towards the lake, and at the top of the photo are the gates that were struck.
Okay, so behind you would be, behind the photographer here would be Sheridan.
Would be Sheridan Drive, and then if you keep going west, Lake Drive.
And this is the broken gate.
Those are the broken gates.
Is this how you first saw it when you went out there?
No, it's not. That's how our utility staff pulled those apart to try and get some idea how we could secure the road for the evening that night.
How did they appear when you first saw them?
When I first saw them, the gates were together. They're normally latched with a large chain that keeps both sections together. Those gates were caved in. The poles, the posts on each side, right and left, that hold those gates were both shifted and loose in the ground, so the gates were kind of collapsing.
All right. Were you able to discern whether a car would have been able to get through there?
A car was not able to get through the way I saw the gates when I got there.
When you saw them?
When I saw them.
Okay. Let's look at the left side of the frame here. You see what I'm circling with my finger?
Looks like some plastic car parts.
Are these the parts that you saw?
Yes.
Okay. Different view of similar vantage point. Exhibit 20. There's a portage on the left, correct?
Correct. We have a construction project going on for several months.
All right. 21. Different angle.
Same area.
Do you know if that's where is this where you originally observed the car parts, or did somebody sort of gather them up and move them there?
Those have look like they've been moved over from where I originally saw them.
Where did you originally see them?
They were more scattered on the road when the first time I showed up when I saw them.
Near the gate or somewhere else?
Near the gate and kind of to the left from our view, but near the gate.
Okay. Exhibit 22. Another Honda part, correct?
Correct.
Exhibit 23. Another Honda part with what appears to be like a product number.
Yes, and that's one of them that I did a quick search on, and it popped up with Honda Civic.
Okay, so one of these numbers here in the middle, you were able to search that number on the internet and find out that it likely came from a Honda Civic.
Correct.
Exhibit 24. Another piece of Honda parts.
Yes.
25. Zoom out a little bit here.
That picture looks like what the area looked like when I pulled up, with car parts scattered around and the fence askew.
Okay, so this is more of what you first saw when you got down there that morning.
Correct.
And in the foreground there are some of those parts, fair?
Correct.
Exhibit 26. Just another view of the gate.
Another view of the gate. That may have been taken from my car. I'm not sure. It almost looks like my dashboard.
Okay.
What's the number on that one?
This is Exhibit 26.
Thank you.
other than what we saw in the photographs there, were there other noticeable car parts? And by noticeable, what I'm asking you, sir, is you were able to identify what part of the car they belonged to?
Nothing that I can recall. Everything I saw seemed like it came from the front end of the car and were the black plastic parts that we've discussed already.
Okay. So you specifically believe these had come from the front end?
And that's my belief.
What made you believe that? Just from what you searched?
It just seemed like it made sense that they look like they're parts from the front end of a car that you typically find if you've ever hit a deer or something. It looked like the same thing. It looked like someone just hit the gate with the front end of their car. It's a dark area.
All right, I'm going to show you exhibits 216 through 223. See if you just recognize what is in those photos, and if so, set it aside.
Yes, I recognize them.
They all appear photos taken at or around that date?
Correct. They look like they're taken at that site at that time.
Okay, I'd move 216 through 223 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
They're received.
We'll go through these. Smash gate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. 217.
It's another picture of the same gate before any of my people touched it.
218.
That's the picture of the post that holds the gate up.
That's the post you were talking about before?
Correct.
Okay. 219 shows sort of the whole post, correct?
Yes.
And then 220, a Honda part?
Yes. Correct.
221,
Another Honda part.
222,
Another car part that's, I couldn't identify that as Honda or not. It doesn't have the markings on it, but it's another car part that was there.
does it look like it would be from like the front of a car?
That's what I would think, but I'm not an auto body guy.
That's fair. What makes you think that though?
It just seems, it looks like it'd be a headlight or a marker light from the front end of the car.
All right, and lastly, 223, another car, correct?
Correct.
Does the Cudahy Water Department have operational surveillance cameras?
Yes, we do.
And were you familiar with how they operated?
Yes.
Okay. Did there come a time where someone from the sheriff's office came to you to try to retrieve video from your cameras?
Yes. Wednesday morning, we were contacted by the Sheriff's Department and Cudahy PD, and they explained they were going to send a sheriff's detective over to review the footage we had from our cameras.
Did that happen?
Yes, it did.
And did either you provide them with video or they recover video from you?
They gave me a specific day and time frame that they wanted video for, and we copied the video to a hard drive and delivered it to the Cudahy Police Department.
All right. The cameras you had, there were cameras both from the
filtration plant?
The filtration plant here as well as the pump house.
Correct.
And you provided those videos to law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall whether or not those cameras were accurate to date and time, or were they about 30 minutes off?
They were off. There'd been a power outage, and we didn't notice it until the officers were reviewing the film that we didn't update the time on the DVR.
Okay. So it would have, the power outage would have set the time back, so it was about 30 minutes off?
Correct.
All right. And that was something you discovered, that it was 30 minutes fast when you were reviewing it with the law enforcement?
As the officers were reviewing the video, we noticed the timestamps didn't make sense. We looked at the current timestamp compared to the current time at that moment and realized how far they were off.
I have nothing else.
Cross?
There's nothing hidden about this driveway, you would agree, right?
No, it's the public who lives in the area is aware it's there.
I'm sorry?
People who live in the area are aware it is there.
Comes right off of Sheridan Drive, right?
Correct.
And Pulaski runs right into it.
Correct.
And that's the reason there's gates there, because you don't want the general public just going on down there, right?
Correct.
What year did those gates go up?
Those exact gates went up sometime in the mid-2000s, but there has been some type of gate there for as long as I've worked for the utility, since 1990.
Okay, and if a person wanted to, by foot, for example, they could sort of finagle their way around the side of that gate. You would agree with that, right?
Yes.
That's all.
State?
Nothing else, Judge.
Thank you. You may step down, Mr. Miller. State, do you have a quick witness?
No. I do have another witness. It's not going to be quick, though.
Do you want to start, maybe? 10 minutes?
I think it would be a good time to pause.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll begin our lunch break. We're going to kick back up this afternoon at 1:45. Remember, those admonitions become even more important now. So no discussing anything as you walk out together. Don't do any research, any investigation. Don't do any posting about anything. Just put this matter completely out of your mind until you come back this afternoon. Also, remember to wear your badges real visible so that everybody knows you're a juror. If you need extra badges, I believe they're in the juror room, or my bailiffs can get them for you. We're going to start at 1:45, so if you could come back between 1:15 and 1:45, we'll have the jury room open. And I need all of you present in order to start at 1:45, so please give yourselves extra time to get through the security protocols. Any issues? Then leave your notebooks on your chairs, please, and have a lovely lunch, and we'll see you back this afternoon.
All right. I am going
Thanks,
to
everybody.
skip the break. I heard
Feel free to
it
bring back with you
wrapping up
coffee,
just
water, and
now,
soda for the
and I went to
afternoon.
hurry, and I went like this with my lipstick, of course. All right, let's see. I think the only thing that's interesting and a good point for Max is there is no blood in his house. And I don't see how he could do all of that and not have blood everywhere. So either he was at a different location, maybe? I don't know.
Correct. On April 3rd, when you became involved in this investigation after you were contacted by the Milwaukee Police Department and briefed, did you follow up in any way regarding Sade Robinson's phone?
I did.
What did you do?
Initially, I identified that telephone number, 414-510-4769, was attributed to Verizon Wireless. I queried a couple databases that I've used in the past for doing that. Once I identified that phone number was Verizon Wireless, I initiated an exigency request to Verizon Wireless for cellular records around the time. The purpose of that was to attempt to identify possible locations where this missing person may have been, where this missing person went, and who this missing person may have contacted or been in contact with.
So this exigency request that you're making, that essentially means you're asking for those records from the phone company without a warrant. Is that right?
Correct.
And why did you opt for an exigency request here?
Initially, based upon the circumstances, there was a missing individual whose vehicle had been located burned under suspicious circumstances, in addition to a leg being found in the park. At that time, we didn't necessarily know who that leg belonged to, nor would we know exactly who that leg belonged to for a period of time. Individuals had attempted to contact this missing person numerous times without success. That was not regular, or that was not not in her, I guess, nature to not answer her phone, and so that was initiated.
Okay. Sometime in the weeks after April 3rd, did you follow up with Verizon Wireless with a warrant to get certified records from that phone company regarding Sade Robinson's phone number?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 282. It's a disc and it's clipped to a piece of paper. Do you know what that is?
Yes, this disc contains the records from Verizon, including the certification attached concerning telephone number 414-510-4769. This is the number that was listed before.
And you made that disc, correct?
Yes, I did.
So you served a warrant on Verizon. They responded by sending you the certified phone records, and that's what's on that disc.
Correct.
They sent it to you electronically, fair?
Correct.
Okay. And that certification, that piece of paper is also on the disc itself, correct?
Yes, it is.
I would move 282 into evidence, Judge.
It's just one it's just one exhibit for both of them?
One exhibit for both of them. I can staple together.
That's okay. Any objection?
No.
Received.
Thank you. So, Detective, you had said one of the reasons for this exigency request for those records was to see if you could figure out locations where her phone might have been. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, get that information in some form through that exigency request as well as through these certified records?
Yes.
I'm going to put 282 in here. Just give me 1 minute. Remind me again, what was the reason why you were worried about these locations? What did you think that was going to help you and your colleagues do?
So ultimately, we were trying to locate the missing person, Sade Robinson. I know that in today's day and age, most people have cell phones, right? And a lot of times people have cell phones with them. I know that cellular companies provide law enforcement with information relating to the cell sites and the cell site usage for those cellular accounts. And that would help us narrow down potentially where she was, where she had been, additional locations for us to follow up with video, witness interviews, etc.
Possibly even helping you find the phone itself, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to put up on the screen, this is on Exhibit 282, an Excel spreadsheet. The beginning of the title, I'm not going to read the whole thing. The title begins with subscriber_MTN. There are a number of things on this disk, correct, Detective?
Correct.
And in fact, if I pull up the file log here, we're looking at all of the records that they gave you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There are numerous Excel spreadsheets. This subscriber_MTN, this would have been the subscriber information for that phone number that you got from Verizon Wireless, correct?
Yes.
What does it say about who the subscriber to that phone number is and where they live?
The first name listed is Sade, last name Robinson, under address line 1858 North Commerce Street, apartment 309, and city, Milwaukee, state, Wisconsin.
Okay. In these records, as well as the exigency records that you received, did you also get from Verizon Wireless text message content?
Yes, I'm aware that Verizon Wireless maintains SMS, short message service, or text message content for approximately 5 days.
And when you reviewed the exigency records, did you locate text messages from April 1st, 2024 in those records?
Yes, I did.
Were there outgoing texts from Sade's phone on April 1st?
Yes.
I'm going to pull up a different document on Exhibit 282.
The beginning title of the Excel spreadsheet is SMS content. SMS stands for what again?
Short message service.
All right. And a lot of these records that we're looking at appear like this. Is that fair to say?
Yes, they do.
All right. This, if you just take a glance, looks like gibberish in a spreadsheet, right?
Lots of numbers and letters on a spreadsheet. Yes.
All right. But if we look closely here, column A that I'm looking at over on the left side of the screen here, that shows what? You can get up if you can.
Okay.
Judge, may the witness get up?
Of course, feel free.
Column A, is the header of column A is titled Message Arrival.
All right. And then if we go across, we get all the way over here where it says originating MDM and terminating NDN. That would be columns I and K, correct?
Correct.
What are those?
Originating MDN would be the sending telephone number in the conversation, and the terminating MDN would be the receiving telephone number in the conversation.
All right. If we go over to column L, what is that?
It's titled Message Content.
And is this where you're going to see the actual substance of the text messages that were sent?
Yes.
All right. Did you locate a text conversation that appeared to be the last text conversation that Sade Robinson was actively engaging with another number?
Yes. The apparent text conversation in the 4 p.m. And early 5 p.m. hour on April 1st, 2024, between her number, the 414-510-4769, and the other number, the 262-416-4874 telephone number.
Okay. That 262-416-4874 number, did you also follow up and request exigency records or any kind of records related to that phone number?
I personally did not. Special Agent George Reiner through the FBI did request exigency.
Okay. Did you then later after that request records from that phone number?
Yes.
Through a warrant?
Research warrant.
And you received certified records?
I did.
Okay. I'm going to go direct your attention right about here. You see the message I've highlighted there?
Yes.
Okay. This message, if you go over to what time it was sent, what are we looking at?
The timestamp here is 4/1, April 1st, 2024. 17:15 is military time for 5:15. However, I know that Verizon records for these SMS content messages are stored in Eastern time or provided in Eastern time. So we, being in Central time, would subtract 1 hour from that time to make it our local time.
All right. So that would mean this message was sent at what time?
It would be at 4:15.
And the content of the message over here in column L, or excuse me, column M, is what?
States, where are we meeting?
And who sent that message to who?
That message was sent from the 414-510-4769 number to 262-416-4874.
All right. And why don't you, starting with that message, go down and tell the jury what the exchange is between those numbers moving forward in time from that text message.
So after the first text message, where are we meeting? The reply from, or actually the next message is again from 414-510-4769 stating I can do 5.
So that those two both came from Sade's phone?
Correct.
Okay.
The response from the 262 number is what?
Response is downtown somewhere, question mark.
Okay. How does Sade respond?
Okay.
How does the 262 number respond to that?
Brought house on 3rd, question mark.
How does Sade respond?
Perfect.
And that message, the perfect message, was sent at what time?
Local time, 4:28 p.m.
Back over to column M. The 262 number sends 2 consecutive messages to Sade reading what?
Okay, I'm going to shower quick. I'll probably get there more around 5:15. And then, are you hungry? Question mark. I need to stop at Twisted Fisherman to pick up my W-2 from last year, and we could eat there first.
How does Sade respond to those 2 texts?
Okay and yes.
Then,
And then, are we eating at the Brat House or the other place?
and how does the 262 message number respond to Sade's question?
Let's eat at Twisted. I'm feeling seafood.
How does Sade respond to that?
Yes, I love seafood.
What does the 262 number say next?
Sounds good. I'm about to leave. I'll be there soon.
Okay. I don't know what happened there, but the TV went out. And then came back and then went out again. All right, we're back. After the 262 number says, sounds good, I'm about to leave and I'll be there soon. Actually, before I ask my next question, that message is sent at what time?
4:54 p.m.
And then there's this odd-looking response after that. Do you know what that's about?
I don't know the exact content of the message. Based upon the various symbols and characters, I believe it to be some sort of emoji or other characters that can't be necessarily translated into the SMS content system.
On an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. After that, there is a text from the 262 number to Sade that says what?
Just got to Twisted.
And that text message was sent at what time?
5:11 p.m. Central Time.
On April 1st.
Correct.
Subsequent to that, Sade responds with what?
Okay, are you inside? Question mark.
And the 262 number responds what?
Yes.
All right. And then after that, as we go down, are there any other outgoing text messages, SMS messages from Sade's phone?
Can you grab the microphone and pull it closer to you? I guess there's some difficulty in hearing you. Thank you.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. The question I have for you is after Sade asks the question, okay, are you inside? And then receives the answer of yes. Does she engage in any other outgoing messages after that?
I do not believe she engages with any other individuals, no.
Okay. And so I want to direct your attention to line 451. There seems to be an outgoing, some kind of message from Sade at that time, correct?
Correct.
And it looks like it is gibberish in response to a text message from True Religion. Is that right?
Yes, it appears to be a targeted advertisement or an advertisement sent to her device, and it appears that an automated message was sent from her device back to the telephone number that sent the advertisement.
Other than that one, are there any other messages that you saw in the records, both the exigency records and these records, that showed Sade texting, sending outgoing text messages to other people?
No.
So the last conversation in the records is Sade's conversations with that 262 number you had mentioned before?
Yes.
That "okay, are you inside" text that Sade sent was sent at what time?
Local time was 5:18 p.m.
And it appeared to you that was the last outgoing text she sent, correct?
Yes.
You can have a seat, Detective.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, that information about the text messages, you originally had it through the exigency records, although we just looked at it from the certified records, right?
Correct.
So it appeared to you that the last person Sade was texting was that 262 number, correct?
Yes.
Did you subsequently look up at any kind of databases to see if you had that number listed to any person?
Yes.
And did you find a number that your records suggested that phone might belong to?
Yes.
And what was the name of that person?
Maxwell Anderson.
Are you aware of whether or not your department arrested Maxwell Anderson on April 4th of 2024?
Yes.
Have you reviewed the photograph from that arrest?
It's actually April of, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Can you repeat the date?
Sure.
Please.
Let me put it this way. After you went through these records and you
Yes.
linked up that phone number to the name Maxwell Anderson, did your department arrest Maxwell Anderson?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed the booking photo from that arrest?
Yes.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 445. Is that the photo you saw?
Yes, it is.
I would move 445 into evidence as published.
Any objection?
No.
It's received. You may publish.
You see that person in court today?
Yes, I do.
Could you identify where that person is for the record by indicating where they're seated and what they might be wearing?
That individual is seated at the defense table wearing a blue, appears to be flannel, blue and black checkered flannel shirt.
I'd ask the record to reflect that the witness identified the defendant.
Any objection?
No.
Record will so reflect.
You subsequently got not only exigency records, but also through a warrant certified records from that phone number, correct?
Yes.
Did you do any similar practice to figure out what phone company serviced that 262 phone number?
Yes.
What was it?
AT&T.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 281. What is Exhibit 281 if you know?
Exhibit 281 is another disk that I produced containing files from AT&T concerning telephone number 262-416-4874, and it also includes the certification of certificate of authenticity of domestic records pursuant to Federal Rules of Evidence 902 sub 11 and 902 sub 13.
All right, so that, again, like the Verizon records, it's a disk of the certified records, and the piece of paper that is the certification is also located on this.
Yes.
I would move 281 in.
Any objection?
No.
281 is received.
Thank you. Give me 1 second, pull up the document I need. Similar to the phone record servicing Sade Robinson's phone, it
information in these records about the subscriber for that 262-416 number, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
It would be the file labeled report CT.
Report CT, all right. I've got on the screen now from Exhibit 281, the file titled Report CT. I think, Judge, this TV is about to turn off.
We'll see if we can help.
All right, we're back. There is specific user information on this page pertaining to the number 262-416-4874, right?
Yes.
And that would be the phone number that Sade, the last phone number Sade was texting.
Yes.
And who does it say is the contact name for that?
The contact name for that particular telephone number is Max Anderson.
All right. What is Max Anderson's date of birth?
11/26/1990.
So at the time, he would have been 33?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also come to learn when you were trying to go through these various phone records and make the exigency requests for those records that Sade Robinson was known to have a Life 360 account?
Around that time, yes.
Did you ultimately serve a warrant upon Life 360 to get those certified records?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury, just generally speaking, what Life 360 is?
Life 360 is a mobile application that can be installed on cellular devices. It's primarily used for location sharing services. So if you would like to share your location with your family members or friends, at any point in time, they can essentially see where you are. You can provide them updates as to your location.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 283. Got it. 283, do you know what that is?
Yes, exhibit number 283 is a disc containing the records I received from Life 360 Incorporated.
Similar to the phone records we've discussed, are they certified?
Yes.
Is that what the piece of paper that's attached to the disc is?
Yes, including the certification of records for these records that I received.
Could you see if that microphone you're standing in front of is on? And if it's not, the one actually next to it, I was thinking, and if that one's not on, can we turn it on? Because there's a difficulty hearing you, is what I'm being advised. Oh. So I guess when you're approaching the bench where you're at, it's difficult for you to be picked up. So if you could, I guess, just position, this picks up the DAR, so it's not amplifying your voice, but if you could go near your table and put the mic to the side, maybe, that'd be great.
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No worries. Sorry about that. Could you re-ask your last question? I think it was relative to the certification of the last exhibit being Life 360.
Thank you. That piece of paper that's attached to the disc, that would be the certification for those records, correct?
Yes.
I'd move 283 in.
Any objection?
No.
283 is received.
And then, Detective, lastly, I'm going to give you Exhibit 284. When you got the cell phone records, you got some other records from those phone companies about their cell towers, correct?
I received a cell site database for AT&T from NDCAC, which is the National Domestic NDCAC, which is the National Domestic Communications Assistance Center, that those certified cell site lists from AT&T were provided from NDCAC. The initial cell site lists from Verizon were also from NDCAC, and then a few weeks later I received certified cell site lists directly from Verizon.
Is that what Exhibit 284 is?
Yes.
And that's, again, a disc you made based on the stuff you got from those companies?
Correct, pertaining to those companies.
I'd move 284 in as well.
Any objection?
And what else?
I don't think I moved 283, so I'm going to move that as well.
You already did. 283 is in.
I don't object.
284 is in as well now.
These phone records that we discussed for Max Anderson's phone, as well as Sade Robinson's phone, and then those cell site records could further be used to map out approximate locations of where those phones would have been at various times. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Were you able to do some version of the same thing with just the exigency records?
Yes.
Okay, so the exigency records, you got that text conversation we had talked about where they talk about going to Twisted Fisherman around 5:15, is that right?
Yes.
And then you also got some information about phone location.
Yes.
Can you describe, related to Sade's phone, what information you were able to get?
So for her device specifically, we were able to get call detail records. The exigency records included what Verizon states is RTT, or real-time tool. That is a type of engineering data. Includes the cell site that was utilized, also the sector or the direction in which the antenna was facing, and also a distance from the cell site. In addition to the real-time tool data, we also received call detail records, which includes telephone calls, who made the call, or to which number the call was made, or the calling party number to Sade's telephone number, the cell site that was used at that time, duration of the call, and then the text message content as well.
All right, and with that information, actually, before I ask that question, it'd be fair to say, based on that last text conversation that she had, that it appeared she was planning on meeting up with someone at Twisted Fisherman, specifically Max Anderson, correct?
Yes.
Did you then use that location information that you just described to try to figure out if that could tell you whether it appeared she actually went there?
Yes.
Where is Twisted Fisherman, first of all?
Twisted Fisherman is located at 1200 West Canal Street in the city and county of Milwaukee.
All right. What happened when you looked up that location information?
It appeared that her device traveled to that location, or in the general area of that location, in the late 4 p.m. hour and early 5 p.m. hour on April 1st, 2024.
And from there, in a general sense, can you tell us what information you had relative to the phone location of Sade's phone?
Yes. The device remained in that general area until approximately 6:30 p.m., at which time it traveled north and east to the general area of Dukes on Water, which is located at 158 East Juneau Avenue in the city and county of Milwaukee.
After that area of North Water Street, then what?
Around 9 p.m. or shortly after 9 p.m., the device traveled south and west from that location.
During your initial, when you were initially trying to figure out who the 262 number belonged to and learned that it may belong to Max Anderson, did you also learn of an address that was believed to be belonged to Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Was that 3161 South 39th Street?
That is correct.
That'd basically be between Oklahoma and Euclid on South 39th Street, correct?
In that area, yes.
After leaving Dukes on Water, did the phone move to, or appear to move to, a location around Mr. Anderson's?
It did.
What about after that?
So from approximately it arrived in that area about 9:20 p.m. or shortly thereafter. It remained in that area until approximately 12:45 or shortly thereafter on April 2nd, 2024.
After that?
After that time, approximately 12:45, shortly thereafter on April 2nd, 2024, device moved north and east to the area of downtown Milwaukee.
And after that?
The device was in the area of downtown Milwaukee and north of the area of downtown Milwaukee, general area of the Milwaukee River, and Kern Park, Pleasant Valley Park as well, in the mid 1:30 a.m. hour or shortly thereafter.
Pleasant Valley Park and Kern Park, those would sort of border the Milwaukee River, is that correct?
Correct. They're adjacent to the Milwaukee River.
In the River West neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to pull up Exhibit 443, which has already been admitted. Just need 1 second here. All right, Detective, can you see this map?
I'll have to get up just because of the glare on the screen.
All right, and just to recap, I probably should have had this up when we were going through it first, but this area right here, West Canal Street, this is about the location of where Twisted Fisherman is, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you pull that mic over if you're going to stand there? Thank you. Go ahead.
So after leaving that location, it appeared the phone had gone sort of in a northeast direction over in the area of Water Street and Juneau. Is that what you said before?
Yes.
Okay. Kind of right up in this area here where my mouse is. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. And again, we're talking generalizations. Is that fair to say?
Correct. This is all based on cell site location information. So cell sites, direction of the antenna. Yes.
Okay. And to be clear, that information was not giving you a pinpointed location of the phone.
That is correct.
Then after that, I think you indicated it goes down to the area of Mr. Anderson's residence near 39th and Oklahoma here, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then it moved up towards downtown, and I think you said by the 1:30 hour near this area in River West, Pleasant Valley Park, correct?
Yeah, it was approximately 1:30 a.m., shortly after 1:30 a.m.
All right. Picking up from there, where does the phone appear to go from those exigency records that you were looking at?
From approximately 2 p.m. to until 2:10.
2 p.m.?
Or 2 o'clock in the morning, I should say, 2 o'clock a.m. Until 2:10 or 2:12 a.m. The device moved west.
All right.
To the area of approximately West Capitol Drive and Fond du Lac Avenue.
Okay. So this street this street here that I'm highlighting?
Yes.
With my mouse? Okay.
Yes.
And then does it double back east?
It does.
And then what?
It doubles back east and then travels south.
Towards where?
Towards the Mitchell interchange.
Around what time?
Approximately a little bit before 2:30 or 2:30 in the morning.
All right, then what?
It would have traveled west.
Do you want to point out what you're talking about?
So it travels south and then it travels west to the area of I-41 or I-894 and approximately South 76th Street at that time.
And what is that time, by the way?
Approximately 2:34 a.m.
All right, then does it double back east?
Yes.
And where does it appear to go from there, if you want to point out?
The device travels east, south, and then east again.
Where?
So east in the area of I-41, I-894, south in the area of I-41, I-94, and then east in the area of College Avenue.
Okay, and that'd be just south of the airport, which I'm circling here with the mouse, correct?
Correct, in that general area.
And what time does it, and what does it do next and at what time?
After traveling east, it traveled to the area of Warnemont Park or Sheridan Park and Lake Michigan.
All right, and if I zoom in on...
Arrived in that area shortly after 2:50 a.m.
Shortly after 2:50 a.m., the phone appears to be around the area of Warnemont Park here, correct?
Yes.
And does it continue moving or does it appear to stop for a period of time or be in one location for a period of time?
For a period of time from 2:50 in the morning, yes. It
All right.
Was in a particular area, not moving substantially.
Not moving substantially, okay. Until when?
Approximately 4:30 in the morning on April 2nd, 2024.
So it appears to be in an area consistent with being at Warnemont Park from about 2:50 to approximately 4:30.
Yes.
And then what happens?
The device traveled north and west a short distance.
Point out what you're talking about?
Sure. To the area of State Highway 794 and East Howard Avenue, which would be in this area. There's a cell site in that particular area. The last records were just before 2:40 a.m. on April 2nd, 2024, using a cell site in that location.
You said 2:40 is the last record?
4:40, I should say.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just to recap, when it's in this area that's on the screen now, arrives what appears to be consistent with the area of Warnemont Park around 2:50, remains stationary until about 4:30, and then move slightly north and slightly west.
Correct.
And then do the records stop?
Correct.
Okay. Just to be very, very clear about this, what you're just describing, number one, you're not saying that it's telling you the exact pinpoint location of the phone, correct?
Correct.
And this is just a general summary of the locations, fair?
Correct.
What was the purpose at the time what were you going to do with this information at the time that you were getting these records initially as exigency records?
So these were, again, locations that investigators could look for follow-up pieces of information, attempting to locate Sade and attempting to locate additional video evidence or interview individuals who may have been in those particular areas at those times.
Okay. When you were analyzing these records, where you said you had mentioned an FBI special agent before, correct?
Yes.
Who was that person?
George Reinerth.
It's Reinerth for the record. Did he sort of work with you to get the locations we just discussed?
Yes, we worked together on that.
And did you subsequently yourself, working with Special Agent Reinerth, more formally map out those locations?
Yes.
And did you turn those records over to him for him to map out as well?
Yes, I provided the records that I received from Verizon and AT&T and also Life 360 to Special Agent Reinerth.
I think this kind of goes without saying, but those locations, you passed that information along to Detective Donner as well as other investigators to conduct follow-up in those areas, correct?
Yes, Detective Donner, other investigators from the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and other investigators from the Milwaukee Police Department.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Cross?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I just want to start with just backing up why you requested these cell tower records. So you requested cell tower records because typically people have their phone on them, right?
Correct.
And when you have your phone on you, it's constantly tracking your movements via these satellite towers.
The phone is attempting to connect to the tower with the best signal, yes, if it were to need to make a phone call or a data connection.
Okay. And you can use that location information for every time the phone's connecting to that tower to kind of track the path of someone's movement, right?
Correct.
And so if you're trying to pinpoint where someone was at a specific time or a general area, you can read these records and determine where in the general area they would be.
You can determine the cell site that was used, the direction from which the antenna is facing, and then also possibly a distance from the actual antenna that was used.
But it's not real precise because you can't pinpoint exactly where someone is.
Correct.
You can't pinpoint how long they're in that specific area because it's a range, right?
Can you ask the question or rephrase the question?
Based on the cell tower data, are you able to tell where someone is for a certain duration of time?
In relation to the other records, we can get an approximation, a time frame.
Okay, but it's an approximation, it's not precise.
We know when the records were generated, but we'd have to consider it in relation to other records.
Okay. And you might be able to tell a general area where someone is, but you don't know, the records can't tell you why the person is in the specific area, correct?
Correct.
And it can't tell you what that person is doing in that location, correct?
Correct.
And it can't tell you who that person is with, if they're with anyone.
Correct, unless you have other information that goes along with that.
Okay. And so the state showed us this I guess spreadsheet that had all these numbers. I think they described it as gibberish, right?
Correct.
Do you manually look at that, or do you ever put that into a system to kind of make it easier to read?
There is software that we use to make it easier to read. It can be mapped manually, but we use software.
And so you got all these records before Mr. Anderson was ever arrested, right?
Correct.
And so
the exigency records.
Okay. And so you review these records and you look at what past, conversations Ms. Robinson's phone had with other people, right?
For a period of time, yes.
And I guess we looked at some of the, you read through some of these text messages that Sade's phone has with Max's phone, and they start this conversation, you said, at 4:15 p.m. on April 1st, right?
I would have to look at the exact timestamp, but yes, that sounds correct.
Okay. And they're texting back and forth. Where are we meeting? And, you know, Sade says, I can do 5, right?
Correct.
And they talk about where they might want to meet. Broad House on 3rd, and they ultimately decide to meet at Twisted Fisherman, correct?
Correct.
And in the outgoing message from Max's phone, it says, I need to stop at Twisted Fisherman to pick up my W-2 from last year, right?
Yes.
And you know what a W-2 is, right? It's a work document.
Yes. It's a tax-related work document.
So one can conclude that Max most likely worked there at some point, right?
Yes.
And he wanted to bring Sade there, a place that he's known at because he worked there, right?
Yes.
It wasn't some obscure location where, you know, Max didn't have any contact with, right?
I didn't know any previous contacts, but based upon the context of the text message content, yes.
Okay. And those text messages, they seem pretty light, correct? It's just 2 people getting to know each other. That's what the text messages seem indicative of, right?
Yes, I don't know necessarily the backstory to the message, I guess, conversation, but it's a basic conversation, yes, about meeting.
There's nothing threatening in those texts, right?
No.
Not aggressive?
No.
Okay. And you talked about these weird symbols that you said that you believe they might be an emoji.
Correct.
And you know what emojis are, right?
Yes.
You can send smiley faces, right?
Smiley faces are one, yes.
You can send animals.
Yes.
Vegetables.
Sure.
And all sorts of hearts, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of like it's a playful image, right? Usually I mean, that's typically from your, real life experience that you send those and they're kind of like a playful image.
It can be, yes.
And so I want to move just forward a little bit. You said that the last outgoing message from Sade's phone is around 5:18 when she asks, "Are you inside?"
Yes.
And that's the last outgoing text message, right?
Yes.
But you're aware that in this day and age, there's lots of ways to communicate with people.
I do.
I mean, used to be a lot of emails, right?
I suppose, yes.
And then I guess as generations move up, there's all these social media platforms that you can communicate with people, right?
Correct.
Like Snapchat.
Correct.
Like Instagram.
Correct.
They call it a DM, right? You can message someone, direct message, it's a DM.
Correct.
And TikTok, right?
Correct.
And those cell records you analyzed, those didn't contain any information from any of those applications, right?
Correct. That would have to be from a device-specific information.
Okay, so based on the records you reviewed, you can't tell whether Ms. Robinson's phone was communicating with anyone else on any of these other platforms.
Correct.
And then once you identified the phone number that Sade was texting with about meeting at Twisted Fisherman, are you there? You determined that was Max Anderson's phone, right?
Yes.
And then you arrested him right after that, right?
I personally did not.
But are you aware that law enforcement arrested him shortly after that?
Yes.
Okay. And so based on the cell tower records that you reviewed, you were able to determine that, Sade's phone goes to Twisted Fisherman, and then it goes to Duke's on Water, and then it goes to the area of Mr. Anderson's residence, right?
Yes.
And it's there for a period of time. Do you remember how long it was in that area?
In the area of Mr. Anderson's residence?
Yeah, sorry.
So it left the area of downtown from the area of Dukes on Water and went down to the area of Mr. Anderson's residence shortly after 9 p.m. So approximately 9:20 p.m. until 12:45 or shortly thereafter the following morning.
Okay, and then her phone around 12:45 a.m. leaves that area, correct?
Yes,
And it travels to the north side of Milwaukee, correct?
travels to the area of downtown prior to traveling north and west.
Okay, so it moves to the downtown city area of Milwaukee,
Correct.
away from kind of the residential area where Max's house is.
Correct.
And then it moves towards the Milwaukee River, right?
Yes.
And it's true around 1:15 a.m. it is in the area around her apartment, correct?
Correct.
And it's around that area for, I believe, about 15 minutes?
It was in the area of downtown Milwaukee, yes.
I mean, I'm talking about close to her apartment.
I would have to look at the exact, I guess, records to determine that, but it was in the area of the downtown Milwaukee for a period of time, yes.
Okay. And her apartment was in the downtown Milwaukee area, correct?
Yes.
And then, based on the cell tower records, it kind of heads up maybe towards almost Shorewood area, right?
North, yes.
Okay. And then, ultimately, I mean, it's the phone is essentially traveling throughout the downtown and the greater Milwaukee area, right?
Yes.
And then ultimately it's heading down south and ends up at Warnemont Park, correct?
The area of Warnemont Park, Sheridan Park, and Lake Michigan, yes.
Okay. And again, this is just an estimate. We can't pinpoint exactly where this phone was at any given time, right?
Correct.
And so what these cell tower records really do is they tell us where someone's phone is, and why that's important in an investigation is because typically people have their phones on them.
Yes, that's fair.
And you use it to, ideally try to figure out where someone was in a general area at a certain time, right?
Yes.
And all these records that you were testifying to are related to Sade Robinson's phone, right?
Yes.
None of those records told you where Mr. Anderson's phone was, correct?
Yes, we obtained those later, along with the Life 360 information from her application,
Okay.
Sade's application.
Very long pause.
And when you reviewed,
Wow.
well, I guess one of the last text messages that was received by Sade's phone was from Max, where he asked how work is going, correct?
Yes.
And based on the cell tower data you got about Max's phone, his phone stayed inside of his residence, correct?
Based on my understanding of his cellular records, the device was off overnight, and then after it was back on the network, that message was sent, yes.
Okay, my question was, his phone, based on the cell tower data
It was in the area, yes, in the area of his residence.
Okay,
General area of
and
his residence.
throughout all these cell tower records, when you're comparing Max's phone to Sade's phone, They're together at the Twisted Fisherman, correct?
Correct.
Then they're together at Duke's on Water, correct?
Correct.
And then they both travel consistently together to Max's house, correct?
Correct.
And then Sade's phone leaves the area of Max's house, correct?
Correct.
And Max's phone stays in the area of his house, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
State.
Just briefly, when you're talking about, when we were talking about using phone location to maybe even find Sade herself, the phone location information from these records is really only useful if the person keeps their phone on them, correct?
Yes.
All right, so if someone left their phone behind, tracking the location of it wouldn't lead you to them, fair?
Correct.
All right, nothing else.
Defense.
I have nothing, thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Detective. State, your next witness.
Detective Spittelmeister.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, seat, and spell your name for the record.
Nathan, Nathan, Spittelmeister, Spittlemeister.
Are you a detective with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office?
I am.
How long have you been a law enforcement officer with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office?
For about 9 years.
How long as a detective?
3.5.
Were you involved in investigating, conducting follow-up investigation related to a leg found at Warmont Park on April 2nd, 2020?
Yes, I was.
And one of your roles in this investigation was to look in the area of where the leg was found for videos. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I have up on the screen next to you exhibit number 1 that's already been admitted. This would be the area where the leg was found, right?
That's correct.
Did you go to various locations that are depicted in this map to recover video?
I did.
Can you tell the jury where?
Cudahy High School, Cudahy Police Department, the Cudahy Water Department.
All right. I'm going to show you exhibit 11, 12, and 27. Exhibit 11. Can you open that and tell us what it is?
Do you need the scissors?
No. This is a flash drive containing the video footage that was recovered from the pump station or the water department.
The next one, 12.
This is a CD containing the video footage that I recovered from the Cudahy High School.
And then the last disc, I think it said 27.
Yes, that is the video footage I recovered from the Cudahy Police Department.
And how is it that you know that flash drive and those 2 discs contain video you recovered?
My initials are written above the titles on each piece of evidence.
You wrote them?
Yes.
Okay. I'd remove 11, 12, and 27 in.
Any objection?
No.
They're received.
All right, Detective, before playing them, I want to use the map to just help
us understand where these videos are going to be from. So the building I'm pointing to with my pen here, that is the Cudahy Water Department, correct?
That is correct.
And the building I'm pointing at here, it says Cudahy City Hall, the police department is there.
That is correct.
And then right north of that, where my pen is going now, that's the high school, correct?
Correct.
What cameras are we going to be looking at from the Cudahy Water Department?
There is one camera that is on the water department building that faces, or that is on the south side of the building, and it faces southeast.
Does it show Pulaski Avenue here?
It does.
All right. Continue.
It also captures into the distance of Warnemont Park. That's the only camera recovered from the actual water department building.
There's another camera that you recovered video from here, correct?
Yes.
Are there actually multiple cameras from that pump house?
There are two cameras.
What directions do they face?
One is on the north side of that pump house, and it faces north, capturing a sidewalk, a gravel parking area, and the tree line that heads down to the beach.
What does the camera that faces south depict?
The camera that faces southeast, it depicts Lake Michigan and the sidewalk.
All right. The videos we're going to watch today, are we going to watch any of the videos that face south?
No.
Why is that? Did you find anything on them?
There was nothing of evidentiary value, just the lake.
The Cudahy Police Department that I'm pointing to right here, where are the cameras that we're going to watch from there?
There are two cameras. One is on the east side of the Cudahy Police Department, and it faces east, and it captures the large open field area, as also with Pulaski Avenue, and approximately where the gate would be for the pump house access road.
What's the quality of that video?
Very poor.
Okay. Grainy?
Very grainy.
Nevertheless, you can see lights though, correct?
Yes.
All these videos we're discussing are from the middle of the night, fair?
Yes, they are.
Then, is there another camera from the police department that we're going to watch?
Yes, we'll have one other video that was recovered. On that camera is positioned on the west side of the building, and it faces southwest, capturing Lake Drive.
And then the high school, what does the high school show?
The high school also had two cameras. One is facing on the south side of the building, and it faces south. And it captures a very wide frame of Pulaski Avenue, the entrance to Warnemont Park, and the pump house access road.
All right, I'm going to start with Exhibit 27, which is the Cudahy Police Department video. Judge, I would ask if jurors wanted to stand up at this time, would the court allow that?
We can pull this TV closer to the jurors, I think. And that might help. That one has to stay at the edge of this table, so I can't bring it that much more forward.
Are you able to see this?
I can always move my position, sir.
And I guess if anybody at the backside wants to come closer to this one, you could. Or if you can see, okay.
All right. This is the Cudahy Police Department video. On the bottom, it looks like there's a date and a timestamp, correct?
That's correct.
And what can you tell us generally about the accuracy of that date and timestamp?
On the camera that's facing east, it's probably about a minute and 20 seconds fast than the actual confirmed timestamps that we were able to get.
All right. So right now I have the video queued up. The title of the video begins 2 CUPD East. We are looking
towards Lake Michigan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And where are we going to be wanting to look when this video plays, and what are we going to be seeing? If you could describe that for the jury.
At the top of the video feed, you're going to see a white shed.
Okay.
In the area of that white shed, you will see a pair of headlights or taillights from the vehicle that you'll be able to see traveling east on what is Pulaski Avenue.
All right. And by going east, it's going away from this camera, correct?
That's correct.
Not across the screen where my mouse is doing right now, right?
Correct. That would be Sheridan.
And where you see those lights, you've obviously been here yourself, fair?
Yes.
Where does it appear that those lights are heading towards?
To the Pump House Access Road. Pulaski Avenue ends at Sheridan, and then it turns into a gated access to the Pump House Access Road.
So Pulaski Avenue then would be to the right of this camera?
Correct.
All right, I'm going to play this 48-second clip. And when you see it, detective, please point out what you were talking about.
Right there.
All right, I've paused it at 33 seconds. It's this set of lights I'm circling here.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to play it from 33. And the lights have disappeared, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so by 2:54:17 a.m. on the camera, the lights are gone.
That's correct.
And would that be consistent with the vehicle arriving at that gate around that time?
That's correct.
The next clip I'm going to play is titled 6-CUPD. We're looking at the same camera now, correct?
That's correct.
But a different time.
Correct.
What time are we looking at?
4:32 a.m.
I'm going to play this clip. It's 39 seconds. What are we going to see?
From the last location that we saw the lights earlier on the previous video, you will see those LED headlights again, and they will appear to be traveling in the opposing direction, heading west on Pulaski Avenue.
Away from the lake?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us when you see them.
Right there.
All right, so about 4:32:24.
That's correct.
Playing, I paused it at 17 seconds. I'm playing it from there. And by 4:32:38-ish, they're off camera, correct?
That's correct.
Last clip is titled 8-CUPD, different camera. Tell us what we're looking at.
This is the camera that's on the west side of the Cudahy Police Department. It is facing southwest, and you see Lake Drive is the road directly to the west of that parking lot.
So Lake Drive would be this road here,
That's correct.
and to get to Pulaski Avenue, which would get you into Warnemont Park, if you were here, you would essentially go down this street and you would turn left up here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What are we going to be looking for and see on this one?
The subjects, or the vehicle that was captured on Pulaski Avenue, will not be able to see it traveling on Pulaski Avenue, but on the houses on the left side of the video frame, you're going to see those houses lighted by headlights that would be coming towards them. You'll then see a vehicle that will enter the camera frame traveling north.
Away from Pulaski Avenue.
Correct.
Playing clip 8. 8 CUPD. It's 55 seconds. tell us when we see what you just described, please.
And there's the start of the headlights.
All right, I'm going to pause it at 36 and back up 10 seconds to 26. Play it again. Right there?
Yes.
And now you see the headlights of a vehicle heading northbound?
That's correct.
Okay. Paused at 44 seconds. What general description can you get of the vehicle from that?
That vehicle appears to be a smaller sedan with kind of like C taillights, because you are able to see the end of the taillights and that camera frame.
Okay. Pretty blurry, but small sedan style vehicle.
Correct.
All right. Dark colored?
Yes, sir.
And what did you say about the timestamp here related to the other timestamp? So right now it's just gone off frame at 4:34:56 a.m.
This camera that faces west appeared to be about 40 seconds fast, a little bit different from the camera on the east.
Okay. Exhibit 12 is going to come up next. This is the Cudahy High School video. About to see somewhat of a similar camera frame, but depicting similar areas, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Going to start with the video labeled 450- student parking lot. We'll just take a minute to load quick. Was there, and while that's loading, let me ask you, Detective, was there a specific reason why you were looking for video footage from these locations from that specific time frame of 2:50 a.m. to about 4:40 a.m.?
We had received records from Life 360 that depicted that the victim's phone had been in the area between 2:50 a.m. and 4:30 a.m.
So you zoned in on that time frame because that was the information you had about when Sade's phone appeared to have been in the area of Warnemont Park, correct?
That's correct.
And it obviously goes without saying you had known already that a leg had been found there on April 2nd.
Yes.
When was it that you were going to collect these videos then? Would it have been that day?
I would have started on April 3rd.
All right. I have the student parking lot video queued up here. This one is sort of difficult to see, but what are we going to want to be looking at? If you could orient the jury, please.
On the upper left-hand side of the video, you'll see again a white shed. That is the same shed I pointed out in the Cudahy Police Department video. And
the thing I'm circling here?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
To the right is a building is going to be on the right side. That is the Cudahy Police Department, where we had the other video from.
Okay.
What we're going to see is going to be on the upper left side of the video, and you'll see headlights again traveling on Pulaski east away from the camera towards the pump house access road.
Okay, and this is obviously in a different video player. Your date and timestamp for this video is down here in the lower left-hand corner, correct?
Correct.
And the road you're talking about, this would be that white shed. The road is right about over here. Fair?
That's correct.
Is this where we're general area of where we're going to see the lights from that same vehicle from the other video?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to cue it up. What can you tell us about the date and time stamp being accurate for this video?
The Cudahy High School is one of the first places that I had access to recover video footage. While I was in the school resource officer's office, I reviewed the timestamps and confirmed that they were correct to the second.
Based on checking your time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to play this video from 2:52 a.m. to 2:53 a.m. And Detective, if you could, if Your Honor will allow the witness to stand up and point out what he's talking about, as it is kind of small on the top of the screen.
That's fine. Just pull that microphone as far over as you can.
Can you bring the mic with you if possible?
Ooh, I apologize for that.
All right, playing at 2:52:02 a.m.
Right here. Right where I just pointed was a vehicle traveling east on Pulaski.
All right, where my mouse is circling here?
That's correct, and it's pulling up to a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Sheridan.
So it can either go left to go north on Sheridan, right to go south towards the golf course, or straight to the gate of the Pump House Road, correct?
That's correct.
And what does it do?
It goes straight and towards the Pump House access road.
And you know that because you can't see its lights going to the left or right, fair?
That's correct.
Pausing it at 2:52:58 a.m. Now, this video has a scroll bar at the bottom, and I can move it, and the video will play with it, correct?
That's correct.
Have you gone through this to see if there's any other any other vehicles that go that same direction down towards that service road in between the times of 2:52 a.m. and 4:30 a.m.?
I did.
Are there any other vehicles that travel that route?
No, they're not.
Or come out of there?
I observed nothing of note when reviewing the video footage in between the time frames.
All right, and I'm scrolling ahead on the bottom here, and I'm going to go all the way up until 4:34 a.m. Or as close as I can get. All right, I'm going to play it from 4:37 a.m. What are we going to see?
You'll see a pair of headlights that will come out of where the Pump House access road is, which is the last place we saw the vehicle traveling.
Please point out when you see it. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong time. I'm going back to 4:30:50. Or I'm going to start it from 4:30:43. Do you see it?
Yes.
Point to it, please. Okay. Very faint?
Very faint, but in the upper left-hand corner of the video.
Where does it appear the vehicle immediately goes to?
The vehicle is going to make a left turn onto Sheridan and enter Warnemont Park.
Towards the golf course?
Correct.
And is that a through road down there?
No, it's not. It dead ends at the golf course at a parking lot.
Okay. And why don't you describe what we're looking at as it's happening, as the video continues to play forward here. It's now at 4:31:46.
You can see lights inside of Warnemont Park, and the vehicle has entered into the area and now has turned around at the dead end and is heading back north on Sheridan towards Pulaski.
Is that it right where my mouse is here?
The vehicle is now approaching the four-way stop sign at Pulaski and is going to make a left turn and head west on Pulaski towards Lake Drive.
Okay. So it's kind of coming towards the camera, fair?
Yes.
And now it's turning westbound on Pulaski.
That's correct.
All right. And it's heading west, and it's going to go behind that white shed at this point, correct?
Correct.
All right. Pause it at 4:33 a.m. I'm going to now bring up the video on this disc titled 400 Main Entrance. And while that's loading, Detective, essentially what you observed there was a vehicle entering the service road around somewhere in the 2:52 to 2:53 a.m. hour, correct?
That's correct.
That vehicle, you never see a vehicle go in or out in the meantime up until about 4:50 a.m.
That's correct.
And when the vehicle leaves it, it goes down the dead end road and then appears to have doubled back, go back to Pulaski, and then leave the part to the west.
That's correct.
That's what we just watched?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would that have been consistent with what was on that Cudahy police video as well?
Yes, sir.
That camera's a little clearer, though.
Much clearer.
I have on the screen now the video from the main entrance to the school, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just very briefly, let me go back to the map here. So those videos we watched from the police department, the other high school camera, we got the car going down Pulaski, following where my pen is going, around 2:52. It then goes into Warnemont here, or excuse me, into the service road here, right?
That's correct.
Comes out at 4:30, little after 4:30, goes south off of this map, comes back north, and then heads out onto Pulaski, ultimately turning north onto what would be Lake Drive.
That's correct.
The camera we're about to watch is right where my pen is at here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Essentially, what are we about to see?
You're about to see the vehicle traveling north on Lake Drive.
I'm going to play this video at 4:34 a.m. (4:33:56). Where should we be looking, by the way? Can you point to it?
Yes.
All right, you're pointing to the upper right portion.
Yes, sir.
And the vehicle is going to kind of follow where my mouse is going, correct?
Yes, that is Lake Drive. And the headlights are now entering.
Okay. And you're able to see, if I pause it at 4:34:29, it appears to be sort of a dark sedan style vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Off the screen by 4:34:31, right?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to put in Exhibit 11 now. This is going to be the pump house video. This might take some time, Judge, just so the court's aware.
Does the jury need a break to stretch your legs for a few minutes? Let's do that. Let's take a 5-10 minute break. Give him a moment to set this up. Just leave your notebooks on your chair, please. Are the next videos brighter?
All right. Looks to be like there's only maybe 10 minutes left. Maybe not even. Maybe it's more like 5. I'm going to have to call it though. I have to get ready and take the girls to school. So if you've been on with me this morning, thank you so much for watching. I will be continuing this. I think they're on day 5 right now. So we got 1 done. And at some point, maybe this evening, I'll start day 2. So, all right. I will see you back on here later.